On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt and Nick will drop some show news that will alter the destinies of everyone involved in the SWTS. But after that, it'll be Bad Batch S2E10 breakdown time. The dudes will also make their Mando S3 predictions in the hopes of earning more speculative glory from their tens of fans. Jon Favreau's latest comments on the longevity of the Mando-verse will also be dissected by our dim-witted duo. Of course, the show will end with the question of the week responses and the latest rounds of Star Wars fan artist features. Punch it, Chewie.
Shit. Hey now, everybody. Oh my goodness, sorry. Oh, wow. Man, these intros are getting more and more special each week. I'll tell you what, but I just cracked myself up before we went live. We're sitting there, we're spitballing the Star Wars Time Show Dungeons and Dragons special that we've been working on. We'll get into it here in a little bit. We got some updates for the community, for the fandos out there to, maybe start getting a little excited. We're going to tease you a little bit. We had our first planning session last week with our other players, aka Sir Dork and @16shooter. Things are taking shape. Stories are being written. Characters are being formed. It's exciting, but I was the reason I came in giggling like a little schoolgirl is because I was talking to Nick. The character I picked, let's just say, is not a traditional humanoid, and Galactic Basic is not their natural language. And I was like, dude, how great would it be if I just talked in my character's native language the entire session? To where Jared, who's going to be, we're not going to tell you too much. We'll lightly set up the story, but Jared and I, we're like a Han Solo and Chewbacca pair. We're that type. Scoundrels, smugglers, ne'er-do-wells, whatever you want to say. But I was like, Nick, what if I just speak in my native tongue the whole time? He's like, well, then Jared would essentially have to act his role and your role. I was like, yeah, man, just like Harrison Ford and Anthony Daniels, why not? It would be hilarious to see me for 2 hours, 3 hours straight, however long these games are going to be, not speaking any English. But he shot that idea down. He knows better than me. He is a dungeon master. I'm a noob. So, you know what, Nick, before I get into my little ditty on Cocaine Bear, let's just talk about it. So I kind of set it up. We had our meeting last week after the show with Trevor and Jared. You kind of guided us through that pretty kick-ass little site you found, or one of my students found, and we decided to use. But you knew how to use it. You knew how to guide us along, picking character classes and races and. I've essentially learned, and this is going to sound really stupid to a lot of people because D&D's been around for decades, but it's fucking role playing. It's an RPG in real life. Okay, like it took me that while to figure it out, but I'm here. I got it. So Nick got us all doctored up. You know, I'm picking my class. I'm putting points in. We're naming our characters. And then, you know, the day later, Nick's giving us kind of prompts so we can fill in backstories. But I'll let Nick kind of describe where we're at and future plans, because we have moved the goalposts in a good direction. We're not moving it away from you all. It's actually getting closer. So planning is taking place. We're locking shit down. But since he's the dungeon master, I'm going to let him kind of take charge here. And I also don't want to spoil anything about the story that young Nick is crafting. And I got to help a little bit. But he came in with his big old EIC dick and was like, "Wakaga!" whack, whack. No, you idiot. That's not how you do this shit. So go ahead, Nick, set it up. Let them know where we're at with the Star Wars Time Show D&D experiment and what they have to look forward here in the near future.
Yeah, so the show itself is, we don't have a name for it yet, but it will be set in the Mando-verse timeline.
Yeah.
That was chosen by our players. I let them choose the timeline that the game was set in. And they chose Mando-verse, so we're going to be in that kind of, we may not be right on top of everything that's happening with the Mando. You know, we're not going to, I don't want to say that there will be crossover with people from the shows or anything like that.
I tried to like link my character to like, you know, hey Mando, we're as cool as you. But Nick's like, no, you're noobs. You're pieces of shit. You got to earn your rep first. You're not Din Djarin yet.
I will say that even early on in our story, we will at least hear the name of familiar characters that you guys will know from Star Wars history. So we're going to have a party of 3 players, as Matt mentioned. So it will be Matt, Jared, Sir Dork, and Trevor 1/6 shooter. So those will be our 3 players. I have already completed writing what I call and what people who like do live stream games and stuff like this call a session 0.
See, I told you he's an expert.
Yes. Which is essentially a game that we will play off stream, but we will record it, and we will determine whether or not we release that for everybody else to see. A session 0 essentially allows the people who are playing the game together, so all of the players, to kind of establish their character dynamics, really kind of understand the vibe that they're going for and the other players are going for, form bonds, and really just kind of figure out how things work. Session 0s are really helpful, especially for new players, which we have 2 brand new players, Matt and Jared, in this game. So having a session like that for them to just kind of get a handle on like how everything works functionally, and then also get a handle on how they want to play their characters and how they want to interact with the world. So we will have a session 0. I've already finished writing that. We're in the stage where we're going to schedule it soon. And then after the session 0 is finished, we may or may not release it. It also may be
it's
released.
Coming out unless we do shit that's going to get us canceled. Let's just put it that way.
It also may be released after we do our first live stream. It's very possible.
We're gonna make you pay for it. We're finally getting the paywalls ready, right, Nick?
Yeah.
That's what S0 is gonna be, paywalled.
Hey, you want to know something funny? Some of my one of my favorite DMs that does stuff online just launched a Patreon for a new project that he's doing with 3 of his his player friends.
Let's compete. Let's challenge
They
them.
got over 20,000 patrons in less than a day.
I don't think we'll get over 20 if over 2. But yeah, sweet.
But yeah, I mean, so things are coming along. I already have, the players have essentially given me their backgrounds that I asked for, which helps me to weave in things in the story about their background.
Can you tell them anything like the one planet we've discussed, or who's linked up with who, or is that all too revealing?
So I will say the opening planet, because this is something that people can just look up on Star Wars.
And I will say, when Nick gave me this planet name and kind of set it up, I was like, oh, you watched Bad Batch episode 10 then, didn't you?
I had not. I literally just finished watching Bad Batch episode 10 about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But the planet that we are going to start on is called Bandamir. It's a real planet in the Star Wars universe. You can look it up on Star Wars Wiki. But that is where we will be starting. We're starting on Bandamir in the Mando-verse timeline. And that's all I really want to say. I want to save character reveals and everything like that for when the people who are playing the characters are here. And it's best to do that in the game, because the way that that I like to run intros in a game like this is very fun and interactive for the players. So I don't want to, to go out and say like, well, Trevor's playing this guy and he's did this and this is his background and all this stuff. I do want to have like,
I'm down because you got to tease, man. You got to tease. You got to bring him here somehow.
Yeah. So yes, we will be starting on Bandamir. It will be Mando-verse timeline. We have 3 of our players, and it will be a fun little adventure for sure. So. For those of you who are interested in that, we will be hopefully filming our session 0 within the next week or so. And then after that, we will figure out our live stream, or if we want to do pre-recorded and then release it on YouTube or live streams or however that works. And then you guys will be able to see our galactic heroes for the first time shortly. So
yes,
that's where we're sitting there.
I can't wait.
It's been pretty fun. It's been pretty fun for me to kind of get writing on this, and I had something cooked up in my head and was able to kind of translate it really well given all the character choices. So.
I mean, I'm excited just to see where Nick takes us, to be honest with you. I mean, when he kind of set the stage and was like, listen, I need a little bit of info from you, and right there I was like, okay, I can see why people dig this shit. Because I was starting to write my own fucking stories, making myself a goddamn king. And he's like, no, little guy.
You're level 1.
Yeah, you are not. You're a peon,
yet,
dude. You're a peon.
You are.
Okay, you're gonna get used and abused until you earn your reputation. Then you might be able to hang out with the likes of Din, Han, Chewie, Dead Greedo, you name it. So I don't know, right. But I like. I almost want to get a costume. Like I really want to get method with my character. So we'll see what happens. I definitely my physical traits, sans a little bit of hair on my head, definitely lines up with the character I chose. So we'll leave it at that. I think you'll be excited. I think you will be entertained. I know I'm fully committed to going as method as I can without being a complete dickhead. And I think the other guys are too. I know Trevor for sure is committed. I mean, this guy, he dove in, he's researched, he is his character already. He fucking 3D printed his character already. That's how engaged he is. Maybe we need him to make action figures for the rest of us. You know, we need
what I do. Like, I don't want to put this out there to like, you know, be like, oh, well, you guys should do this. But what I'm very interested to see is like once we actually start to release content and people are introduced to these characters, we have a very artistic bunch of followers.
Yeah,
so
we get fucking trading cards made, posters. Let's go.
Just fan art in general, I think would be cool to see. Because I mean,
hey,
I think that
Nick,
you guys.
If this is the thing that gets us to pop and takes us next level. Fuck the show. We're doing D&D every week. All right, that's it. Like Trevor is not wrong. I'm surprised it took him this long. He's in the live stream chat, which if you want to join 2:30 p East every Tuesday, at least until this week. That's right. I forgot we got a big announcements to make. That's where you can find us. But he's saying Matt wants to be a Star Wars star. Yeah. That's the whole reason I've been doing this for 5, 6, 7 years. That is 100% correct. I will not hide from it. We've got the little lady making the appearance today. We're talking about our Star Wars Dungeons and Dragons game we're gonna play. What do you think? I'll tell you my character when we get offline. I'm not allowed to talk about it now, or Nick will punch me in the face. Okay. Sound good?
Yeah.
Welcome home. Little one may be going to real work with Daddy this week for the first time. Get to see me do a little presentation on AI and ethics. What do you think about that? Yes, my dumb ass can do real stuff too. How is that? So let's transition from AI and ethics to Cocaine Bear. Right? They're in the same genre. And then we'll tell you our big show announcement after Cocaine Bear. So Cocaine Bear, I mean, I think we talked about this a few months ago when the trailer came out. Like, is this real? Yeah, it actually is. It's based on an actual real story where some dude fell out of a plane with a bag of cocaine and a bear got into it. Now, obviously, the movie that was directed by Elizabeth Banks and produced by, what's his name? Miller and Homeboy. Lord Miller.
Lord Miller.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's a fantastical retelling of that true story, but it's still set in the 80s and falls along with the whole drug theme. So, when you first heard of Cocaine Bear or maybe saw the trailer, you were like, what the fuck? Is this is real? Like, they're doing this. Someone actually paid money to shoot this. And yeah, they did. And I will tell you, it's just as ridiculous as it looks and sounds. But that's kind of the charm of it. It's one of those movies, Nick. It's definitely, I'd classify it as a B movie, even though it knocked Ant-Man out of the top spot after only a week. That goes to show Ant-Man didn't really get any word of mouth bump from week one. But it's got a B movie feel, so it's not a great movie from start to finish at all. There are times I was just like, all right, let's move things along. Am I supposed to give a shit about anything here? Is it all just kind of slapsticky, dry type of humor? And that stuff works. The dry humor is great. There are moments where you're just like, what the fuck? And really the standout performance to me, Nick, is Alden Ehrenreich, a.k.a. Young Han, the guy that had his Star Wars career ripped from him because Bob Iger is an idiot. But I just, once again, like, that dude can act. Like, he played whatever the hell type of character he's playing. He's essentially a drug dealer's son who's going through a bout of depression. He is probably the most interesting character in the movie. Just a very job well done by Alden. Obviously, the gore and the action is way over the top, and the scenario in general is over the top, even though it's loosely based on a real event. So I always like to go out and see what people are saying about a movie after I've seen it, and Rotten Tomatoes is bringing in right around a kind of a 70-70 split between audience and critics, which is weird. You almost never get that close of a split. It's almost, you know what I mean, Nick? It's like, when it's like a comic book movie or superhero movie, you can always expect the critical score to be quite low and the fan score to be quite high. Where if it's a movie like The Last Jedi, where the critics get it first, they're like, "Oh, this is a 98." Fans see it, they're coming in at like 60 or 70, something like that. But this one, pretty even. Steven is like 70, 75, and I'd have to agree. Cocaine Bear, 7 out of 10. It's a movie if you're a part of one of these clubs like A-List Plus or shit like that, where you can see free movies throughout the week. Yeah, sure, go. Otherwise, you're fine probably waiting for this to hit the streamers, and I'm sure it won't be too long. But it is funny. It is completely fucking ridiculous, and I would see a sequel if they do it. I'll leave it at that. So there is your Cocaine Bear quickie review. There's probably other things to watch in the theaters right now. But like I said, if you need something to watch and you want to burn up one of your free movies, you're not going to walk away disappointed.
Yeah.
Okay. So, big time show announcement. All right. Yeah, Kevin's spot on. Like Cocaine Bear, he's saying in the chat, Cocaine Bear sounds like Snakes on a Plane. Ridiculous, but exactly what it claims to be. Ergo awesome. Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it is. Like you're not going to go there and come out and be like, holy shit, I need to see that again right away. But you're going to be like, okay, this is silly. It knows it's silly, but it kind of works. So yeah, good summary there, Kevin. All right, so on to the big show news. I kind of teased this in our Discord. If you want to join, it's open. Hit us on Instagram at Star Wars Time Show. Use the bio link. But I teased in the Discord that a big show announcement was coming this week. And, some of you went right to the negative Nancy approach, and you're like, Nick's dead. I was like, no, Nick's not dead. Then it was Nick's quitting. I was like, no, I don't think he's quitting yet. And then I was just like, just wait. I'm a master of the tease. At least I'll draw 2 people into the show to hear the final reveal. But here it is. Get ready. Fred, play the music. I wish we had a Fred. That's the one thing we are missing from the show is a fucking Fred. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
operator.
Yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you've never listened to the greatest radio show of all time. But here we go. Here's the big announcement. This is probably, maybe next week, going to be our last Tuesday midday live stream for the time being. Reason for this schedule change, and no, the show's not going away. We need to figure out a new delivery schedule. And the reason for this is our friend Young Nick is returning to the real world. Yes. Yeah. Sadly, the young guy had to get himself a real job again after some things happened and buying bigger houses and clients this and clients that, but Nick is returning to the workforce, which means he can no longer play with me on a midday and Tuesday. So, kind of what we're looking at moving forward. Next week, Nick's probably going to take a pass just to get a good feel for his new work life. What the schedule's going to be, what his meeting schedule's going to look like. Because the good thing is he's still remote. Okay, he doesn't have to go to an office and shit like that. But there's a 98% chance that Tuesday middays are gone. So you got us this week. You'll have either a version of me and a co-host next week, and then the week after, hopefully we're back in our new time slot, or at least starting to feel out time slots. You know, if I could predict the future, I'm thinking we're either going to back to our original time, which were Tuesday evenings, 5, 6 East, or as Nick has been, kind of kicking the tires on, we may shift things to Friday. Maybe even earlier than 2:30. It really just depends on Nick's schedule, when he needs to be on camera and meeting with his new coworkers. So that's the big news. I don't know. Like, listen, I am a man of routine. I knew this was coming. It's not like Nick just fucking slapped me in the face last week. I mean, we've been talking about this, but I'm very routine oriented. So it's giving me a little bit of heartburn. I've got a nice little life schedule right now that Nick and I have formed over the past 3 years that I'm going to have to get my crusty OCD brain to give up. And we'll get there. Don't worry. I'll figure it out. But I got guardrails on my life right now. I like the way my life is managed and split between fake work, aka Star Wars time, real work, and then family time. So as long as I can maintain that balance, life will be good, and I'm sure we'll figure it out. But yes, the days of 2:30 midday Star Wars time show live streams are going to be coming to an end more than likely. So
I mean, honestly, if the show does move off of Tuesday, it would probably only be beneficial for us, because we right now we're talking about shit that's a week old, and the new stuff comes out tomorrow. So I don't know. We'll see what our schedule looks like. There will be Star Wars time into the future. It will just be on a different day and time. So we'll figure out what that looks like once I get a handle on my work schedule. So yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, naturally that's going to affect the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, but we'll get there. We'll try to be a little more forthcoming with schedule changes and whatnot. You'll figure it out, at least those who give a shit. Not that there's many of you. But yeah, so we may be going prime time, or we may be shifting to the best, or one of the best days of the week, and that's Friday. That's actually where we Genesis, right, my friend? It was Friday nights after happy hour when this guy, not young Nick, was all lubed up on essentially a half gallon or a gallon of Coors Light from B-Dubs. I mean, if you guys that like the Crazy Matt and the Angry Guy, go on over to Entertainment Buddha YouTube channel and scope a few of the old shows when we did it on that network. That's probably a bad thing, because I'm sure there's cancelable material in there for myself. But yeah, I used to do the show fairly lubed up, like really lubed up. I mean, I'm talking coming off of happy hour, no joke, 4 or 5 22-ounce Coors Lights. Whew, those are the days, man. My drinking's been cut big time since then. But yeah, so new things coming to Star Wars Time Show. Nick's not wrong. I mean, Tuesday middays was never in terms of getting the most eyes on a live stream, never a great idea. Although there are some of you that have kind of made it work. But we'll either be going closer to evenings or Fridays. That's what it's looking like. Okay, so there you go. Everyone back off that ledge. Star Wars Time Show is still here. All right, my friend, let's go ahead and get into some of that Star Wars stuff. But before we get into the Bad Batch, which, not going to lie, was rough. I mean, Nick more or less predicted this episode last week when he's like, I just want to move on from this shit. And he was right. He was right. Okay. But real quick, I just want to remind everyone, don't forget, we do produce additional content not just the live stream or the podcast. Live stream Tuesdays, podcast comes out on Wednesdays. But if there's a new issue of Yoda, Star Wars, Vader, A Hidden Empire, we'll have quick cap and reviews coming up on youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show. You know, I put up my little woe is me post on when we found out the Mandalorian season 3 runtime for the premiere. Nick, it's only 35 fucking minutes.
And that's credits included, right?
Yeah,
35 minutes includes the credits.
Right. So, I mean, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, quit being a little bitch. But a lot of people were being a bitch like me. And I feel like when a show has been gone for over 2 years, Book of Boba Fett, bridge or not, you probably should give us at least 40 minutes of content just to really settle in with the people. Sure, if the story's tight and legit, runtime shouldn't matter. I get all that. But it's Mando. I want as much as my eyes and brain can take on day one. I think season 2 did it the best when they clocked in at like a 51-minute episode. Because, Nick, season 1's premiere, the thing that kicked all of it off, was only 38 minutes. So it's not like Mando's way out of scope when we compare it to its previous 2 seasons. I was just expecting, after a 2+ year hiatus, that we might have got something closer to an actual hour-long TV show. Now, not an hour. I'm talking, 45 minutes, 43 minutes, something like that. Because, I mean,
it's disappointing for sure, especially considering what we know is to come in this season. Like, this is going to be... I mean, let's be real. It's going to be potentially the biggest season that they've had so far.
100%, man. You're right, because we're no longer, it's no longer Cub and Scout, get him to his family. It's, we're a family now, and we need to figure out our fucking Mandalorian culture shit. So we're going, it's a full-on turning of the page in the Mando-verse. No longer are we fucking around with, we got to protect the kid and get him somewhere. It's, all right, I fucked up. I need to atone for my sins while also teaching you to be more of a Mang. Because I'm telling you, Grogu is becoming the next Mando Jedi. We're going to talk about some of this stuff. We got some predictions. Last week we did Mando season 3 once. That's what we wanted to see. Now we're going to tell you what you're going to fucking see. All right? So we got that coming up too. But don't forget about our content out there on YouTube, mostly shorts, so your little brains can handle the unproduced 1-minute runtime content. All right, dude, Bad Batch. Here we go. I was lamenting in Discord.
Here we go.
Yeah, I was lamenting to you before we went live. I was like, man, I really wish we got this episode this week. That way I could completely forget about it and just move on to my coverage of the Mandalorian S2E10. But such is life. Knowing my luck, I have a feeling episode 11 of the Bad Batch is probably going to be groundbreaking, if not canon busting. That's just how my life and luck works. But we'll see. So anyways, Bad Batch S2E10. Here we go. The SWTS deep dive breakdown. It was called Retrieval. And, since I'm rambling here, I guess I'll just start with my mini review here, Nick. But, quite frankly, this is the first time this season that at the end of it, I was just like, fuck. That was as mundane as it gets. I'm still not going to call it filler. Little shit did happen, right? They did get their shit back. They're getting even closer to figuring out that there's little empires all over the place and they can help. But my God, was it just blah. I didn't like any of the new characters. I didn't like Benny. Fuck Benny. He's a dickhead. I didn't like the Mako. I didn't like the mine. I didn't like the visuals. Come on. And me, I'm Mr. fucking positive about Star Wars to a fault. Like, I'm probably, criticized as being a Kool-Aid drinker, and that's okay. I mean, I will give my critiques, but for the most part, new Star Wars is always going to be entertaining to me. I'm going to derive some form of enjoyment out of it. And I got a little bit out of this episode, Nick, but it's, in my opinion, one of the biggest stinkers out of the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I said before we went live, when we were just kind of chilling out before we hit the stream button, I was like, I paid so little attention to this particular episode that I could barely tell you anything that happened. And the funny thing is that, like, there was so little that happened that it doesn't matter. Like it was an ultra self-contained episode that was literally like, and here's what I'll say too, is like, we are adults, the people listening to this show, more than likely, in towards your adult age.
I play one on TV at least. Yeah.
I consider adult to be anything in the 20-year-old plus range, even 18 if you go down that low.
No.
We're all adults here. This show is for children, and we forget that sometimes, like especially the animated shows are made for kids. I mean, one of the main characters in this show is 11 years old? Like,
yeah.
Something like that. And this 2-episode arc was an episodic arc that was built as a way to tell a little like tale for children, to give them a life lesson. Family and home is important, and you should always fight for your family and for your home. And that's what this episode was about. And it just wasn't made for adults. This episodic arc was made for children. In fact, it was made for children so much that almost all of the other characters in this episode were children. Like,
good point.
So it's literally about kids being enslaved by an adult, which is a theme that you've seen over and over again in children's television, whether it be boarding schools like in Matilda, or straight up like indentured servitude like we have in this episode. But it's a very common theme in children's television and media. So it was what it was. Like we said, there was almost no furthering of the overall plot line. It was basically just like, get our home back, and then the bad people are out there. That's kind of what it was.
Yeah, I mean, that's the screenshot I have up. I mean, right at the end, like I said, you get a little bit of I guess, increased character development when Omega's like, man, there's a lot of fucking bad out there, but Tech's like, yeah, but there's a lot of people like us. And you could be like, hey, they're getting there. They're really on that precipice of falling over and realizing that they need to commit their themselves and their skill sets to fighting back against the empire itself. And as I called when I summarized this episode, tiny empires like Mako created here. But outside of that, I mean, I'm sorry, I still not going to call it filler, but it was just beyond mundane. When it got to the end, I just went, fuck. Okay, yeah, that arc's over. That's good. We know we're an episode or two away from the banger that D. Bradley Baker teased with Crosshair. And quite frankly, looking at the rest of the episode titles, I do think the final 6 episodes of the Bad Batch are going to be quite fantastic, with the 2-part finale being very revelatory, especially in terms of what's going on at Tantus, I believe is what it's called. I always like to call it Cantus, but I think that's a bad guy from Gears of War.
Yeah, Tantus is the cloning mountain.
Okay, yeah.
Mount
so
Tantus.
We are going to get meat, and by the end of the season, everyone's going to be like, "Oh yeah, Bad Batch hooked us up. Wow, we got all that stuff." Trust me on that; it's going to happen. But Nick made good points, and I've tried to bring this up throughout the season. You still got to remember, it is a cartoon. And we all forget that the Clone Wars itself suffered from shit like this. Okay? Mm-hmm. And sometimes in the Clone Wars, they wouldn't just be a 2-episode arc of mundaneness. It would be 3, 4, sometimes even more, split across seasons. So it's all right. Don't give up. Don't get angry. Nick is 100% correct. This episode in particular was laser focused on little kids' brains to let them know how to be righteous in the face of evil.
Bad people.
Yeah, but it was rough getting those back to back where really not much happened at all. I mean, between the 2 episodes, there was 0 Star Wars references. Last week I hung myself out there. I was like, oh yeah, there's like a Lion King similarity. Yeah. And then this week there was absolutely nothing. Like,
yeah.
0.
I mean, because you're stuck in a mine the whole time. Like you're underground. You're in a And also like you're dealing with shit that's just so like, we got to go get our ship back. They didn't even leave the planet. They're still on the same fucking planet. Like once I realized, I was like, oh, this person didn't even take this ship off world. Like they're still going to be here. I was like, let me address some emails that I have.
Well, that's why when Nick sent me the Wikipedia to Bandamir, I was like, you fucking just watched Bad Batch, didn't you? He's like, no. I was like, all right, I won't get into it, but if you read Bandamir, it's like an old mining planet run down and shit. It's like, wow, it's fucking Bad Batch episode 10.
And I will say, like, one of the reasons that I chose Bandamir as a starting planet is because that I had written Bandamir into a Star Wars story that I was writing like a long time ago, like 10, 12 years ago or something like that. So it was a planet that I was already familiar with in terms of like a storytelling context. So I knew that already. And also just for like a little bit of like behind the scenes for like RPG, like tabletop RPG style stuff, especially from like a storytelling perspective. You always want to start off in a place that's like, you have no reason to be here, or like you're only here for a limited amount of time before you expand your horizons.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's why it reminded me 100% of this episode, because it's same scenario for the Bad Batch. Like they're stranded there, they don't want to be there, they don't need to be there. It's a shithole, and that's where our story is starting, on a shithole. Jared and I,
and then
I can't wait.
You jump from one shithole to a shithole that's slightly better, and then you go to then you're at like, maybe this next planet isn't a shithole, maybe it's kind of nice. Then you work your way up.
See, I gotta figure out, like, are Jared and I, is Jared's character my character? Are we so low class that we wouldn't even be allowed entry into Garza Fwip's place in Mos Espa? Like, would she let us in? Would she recognize us, or we're even lower than that?
So I mean, so I will say, I mean, and I'll say this for all of you. The session 0 is starting at level 1, so you have to figure that as a level 1 character, would anybody of note know you?
Yeah,
other than the two that I kind of like let you have from your description.
The best part is I was like, oh yeah, these people are gonna help us. Nick's like, they're not gonna help you, they're gonna use you because you're shitheads.
I was like, I will allow you the connection, but you're not gonna be like, oh yeah, we were like fighting with them and we were doing all like we were hanging with these guys. And I was like, we're
getting scammed by some scammers essentially.
So, man. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's kind of like the journey of our story in the beginning, is like for you guys especially, and I really do want like you and Jared to kind of like cook up a dynamic between you two. I mean, like talk and figure out what your dynamic is. But like essentially like one of the storylines for your two characters is going to be, building your reputation, becoming notable people in the galaxy, especially in the smuggling underworld. So you can start to make more money, get more jobs, get more opportunities and stuff like that. And then, so like from your character's perspectives, that's what you're trying to do. And then obviously as we weave the tale and Trevor's character comes in and those two storylines intermix and the purposes of your group begin to intertwine, then you and Jared can kind of reassess what your goal is in the galaxy. And that's what makes this very interesting.
Jared, I'm telling you right now, I'm the boss. Okay. I will be the boss of our pairing. All right, so we got some good stuff here in the live stream chat. Was Mako or Stromboli the same breed as the water bread giver in TFA? I do not think Mako is the same as Unkar Plot. He does look noticeably different. And I haven't seen a Mako type in Star Wars previously.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That was definitely like a new species or a new like sub race of the species or something like that. Unkar Plot is a what is he? He's a Crowloot. They don't have ears, so like that's, I mean, like there is some similarity in terms of like how huge the nose is, but like crew loads do not have ears, and they look like fish, almost like blobfish. Yeah, I don't know what this guy is. Let's see if they have his stuff on there. Mako Star Wars. See if he's even up there yet.
Yeah, they'll have him on Wookiee.
Oh, the Mako that they're showing me immediately from Star Wars Wiki is the Mako from Star Wars: The Old Republic. I completely forgot about that. She's one of your like character companions.
This guy is Mokko, I believe is what I...
Mokko.
Yeah, Mokko is how they had it. I had to get in there real quick and moderate the chat. Jared let loose my species real quick.
Oh yeah. Jared was not here for the beginning. We didn't reveal we didn't reveal any species or any character names yet. I did reveal the time period and the planet that we're starting on.
It's all
good. I'm gonna let you guys do your species and character reveals once we get in game.
Yeah.
It doesn't say what Mako's his species is. Very interesting. He's literally on the wiki, but he does not have a species attached
dude,
to him.
If it's on Wookiee and they don't have anything, like then it's like I said, it's new. So I'll take it. And then here Johnny's saying, "Damn, I should have held off getting the Benny neck tattoo." That's right. Benny Blades or whatever his name was. He had those 2 bars on his throat. I like it. So anyways, let's get back to Bad Batch. Not that we're going to dedicate much more time to this. There were no references, no real Easter eggs of note. But, for the sake of being a good sport, I definitely made up 2 top moments. And by making up, I just fuck, I might as well just pick anything and talk about it. So
I was say something was good.
Yeah. I am someone that likes to watch shitheads feel like shit for being shitty. How's that for an English sentence? Did that make sense?
That's a good one. That's
a
good one.
And, and that's Benny, right? Benny was a shithead. He stole their ship, which is a shitty thing to do. And then after he sold out Omega and the team, he felt like shit. So he's a shithead that did something shitty, but then ended up feeling like shit. And I like that story trope. I like when people realize that they're scumbags, that they fucked up, and that they need to make amends. So in particular, when Benny and Omega are in that control tower, she's feeding them and just being Omega, a caring young teen girl. And he still, because of Mako's gaslighting, he still can't help himself. He feels like if he rats them out, that he's going to get the top spot and, become the right-hand man. So he does it because he's a piece of shit. But you can see, and that's where, if we can talk anything in a extreme positive light about this episode, once again, the animation this season of Bad Batch is the best we've seen in any Star Wars animation. And they in particular, Nick, they did a great job in just portraying Benny feeling like a dick after he ratted out Omega and Mako came and got her, to the point you're like, all right, he's probably going to redeem himself. So for this episode, I did enjoy that moment. I considered it one of the standout moments. We really got to see this Benny character feel a little bit of pain for something he did, and I derive enjoyment out of that.
Yeah. It's good for kids to know that when you do bad things, you feel bad.
Yeah.
You feel bad when you do bad.
Yeah. So, and then the next one, since, like I said, we got to do this, I did appreciate Omega's trust fall. I think it showed a few things. It showed how badass she already is as a teen. And I do think, Nick, she's probably about 14. Because she would have been 10 at the start of the Clone Wars. 3 years of Clone Wars puts her at 13.
Yeah.
And then if we are a year beyond the fall of the Republic, so she's in that teenage phase. But like I said, her trust fall just shows how confident she has become in herself. It shows how much she trusts her brothers. And it just looked fucking cool, where she maneuvered herself in position to willingly throw herself off this platform to get rid of the robot attacker. And, without flinching, Hunter was in step with her, knew exactly what she was thinking without her saying, "Hey, Hunter, catch me." It's almost like they share a force connection through their clone juice. And I just love the determination of her, of righting herself, reaching out like Superwoman and grabbing Dad Hunter's hands for the save. So if anything, visually it looked cool, but narratively it just shows how much Omega has gone from I always need saved in season 1 to I'm a legitimate member of this team. I can take care of myself. I am confident. I am brave. I am courageous because I know I can trust these other dudes to have my back. So there, 2 top moments.
There you go. There you go. I mean, yeah, I think that for me, definitely the final moments of seeing Mako get his comeuppance was very nice, especially because they allowed the kids to do it. You know, it would have been easy for like the batch to run in, blast this guy and be like, hey, you guys are free now. Go ahead and be free. But they allowed the kids who were essentially slaves under Mako to, you know, to dispatch of him on their own. So that was cool. Definitely some growth moments from Omega in the episode.
It's interesting you bring that up. If you think about it, you essentially had adults in the room condone murder, like actually promote it. Like, yeah, go ahead. Hey, we shot his droids. Now you guys go ahead and kill him because it's what you want.
And the funny thing was, and like they like, I will say that the writers did it in a good way, where like the kids didn't actually kill him, like they were just closing. He
kind of kills
and
himself,
and then he starts swinging around wildly,
right.
and he kills himself.
But I mean, like, you have adults, technically adults in the room sanctioning murder, like group gang murder. So
yeah, it's like, hey, but hey, that guy was a piece of shit, and you know, there's a lot of those out there in the outer rim of the galaxy, especially at the time period that we're at now, with, you know, the destruction of the Galactic Republic, the formation of the Galactic Empire, especially in Outer Rim worlds.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in Outer Rim worlds, even early in especially early in the Imperial days, like the Empire didn't want to fuck around with the Outer Rim.
Dude,
they were like,
no one does. I mean, why do you think the Mando-verse, it's a little Wild West out there? Because even the New Republic, they don't have the resources to. Yeah. They send fucking Tiva and Wolf out there. That's it. 2 dudes in an X-wing. You know, yeah, you guys take care of the Outer Rim. No problem. You got 2 fucking X-wings. That's all you need. No. Have fun. Good luck. Just watch out for Gideon's cruiser coming through and zapping your asses.
So yeah, I mean that's why you have shit like that happening in the Outer Rim, because you have no policing. Yeah. It's essentially been left to whoever the fuck's out there.
Well, I mean, that's why
to hold rule.
The Empire essentially had an under the table, or we're not going to speak about it publicly deal with the cartels.
Yeah,
they're like, all right, you guys, you gangsters, you deal with the Outer Rim shit. As long as you don't fuck with us, you guys keep your little fiefdoms and whatnot. Damn it, I had a thought. Yeah, I guess, I mean, you do make up the point, and let's try to squeeze a little more juice out of this mundane episode. But it's experiences like this for the Bad Batch where, one after the other, they get closer and closer to realizing, like, holy shit, there is, because of the fall of the Republic, we're going to have these little tiny empires popping up all over the galaxy with guys like Mako taking advantage of those that don't have the same means and ability to take care of themselves. So you would think after this one, moving into 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, that they're kind of snowballing towards fully entering the fray at this point in time.
Yeah, I would hope so at the very least.
Yeah, please. We can't have any more fucking bullshit missions and treasure hunts. Like, come on. I know tomorrow may not be the Crosshair one. That may actually be legitimately 12. I know D just said that 3/4 of the way through, which we're right there at 11 and 12. But I do have a feeling that this was the last of the mission-y... spelunky mission. Side quest type of shit.
Side mission.
The Bad Batch has been too much like me in Hogwarts Legacy, where I can't for the life of me stick to the main quest. I have to keep bouncing off doing stupid shit. Like last night, I found myself for 30 minutes collecting beasts, taking him to the room of requirement and then petting them and feeding them like kibble and bits. And that was that was somewhat fun to me.
I haven't even gotten to the point to where I can collect beasts yet. I'm like level 22 in that game.
I'll tell you right now, you're doing exactly what I did, and I kind of regret it because you're doing shit on your own where you probably don't have abilities where you could start doing even more. Where if you just do a few main quests, then when you're fucking around the woods now you can collect beasts, or when you're fucking you can do this. So I do recommend trying a few more main quests to unlock a few spells and abilities, and then get back on the ADD train. That's my plan now, because I've literally gotten to the point to where one of the side missions is like, it's one of the side missions to unlock a spell, and I need a large potting station, and I don't even have access to that yet. Yeah, you probably don't even have the rumor requirement yet. Like, you probably haven't even gotten to that.
I just got it. I just got it. Yeah.
All right. So. It is a game. Like, I'm still not bored with it. I still find myself getting immersed. There are times where I get bored, like especially if I go on a mission. Like, fuck, I like just going wherever I feel like it. I'll get on my broom and fly around. If I see red triangles, I'll dive in and fucking kill people and see if there's other random shit to pick up. I'll jump back on my broom and zip off. But sometimes on main quests, I'm like, I'll find myself nodding off later in the evening. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really fun. It's very reminiscent to me of like old Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, sure.
Like, because I was flying around on my broom and I was like, oh, what's that? And I went down and it was like it was like a hideout for dark wizards.
Exactly.
And I just fucking wiped them out. Right. And I was like, oh yeah.
It could have been, it may be like a mission, but you're just like, fuck it, I'm dropping in right now. I'm going to blow these assholes up. Who cares?
That's right.
It really is. Like, if you're someone that struggles with games like this of staying on track, Hogwarts Legacy, you're either going to love it or hate it, because it's very hard to just commit to one thing. Because even when I commit to something, I'll pop out into the world and be like, ooh, look, there's other markers on the map. Like, ooh, just veering off right or left. Like, fuck the main quest.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go. That's our Bad Batch S2E10 deep dive breakdown. In terms of predictions for tomorrow, I need to see the title. Bad Batch Season 2. Season 2 episode titles. How's that? Because, we don't want to leave you. We don't want to leave you feeling shortchanged. All right, I'm almost there, everyone. Chill out. Okay, Metamorphosis is tomorrow.
Okay.
And then
that sounds like it would be an important episode.
Yeah, so we got Metamorphosis and then The Outpost. And one of these two has to be the Crosshair standout that D. Bradley Baker teased. Yeah, Metamorphosis, I don't know, man. That one kind of, I agree with you. But I think it could also go completely the other end. It could be another bullshit mission about an alien that's going through a literal metamorphosis, and they have to like protect it.
You are right.
You know what I mean? Or it could be, right. Is this a metamorphosis for the Bad Batch and getting into the fray? Is a metamorphosis for Crosshair and him realizing, oh shit? Because, one thing we didn't really discuss after Truth and Consequences is, where is Rampart truly gone, or was that just part of the ruse and he's going to show up commanding in another part of the galaxy, or did Palpatine truly commit to him taking the fall? Either way, that was Crosshair's guy, for lack of a better description. Like, that's the only person Crosshair interacted with. That's who gave Crosshair missions. That's who Crosshair would meet with. It's really the only person in that facility that would talk to Crosshair, as we saw in episode 3. Clones don't want to talk to him. They don't give a shit. He just sits in his prison cell all by himself. So, what if Rampart's truly off the map, Nick? What the hell is Crosshair doing at this point in time? You know what I mean? Like, what is he?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this
is
point
that
in
enough
time,
for him to question? Like, well, they just fucking got rid of him for doing what they told him to do. What's going on? Why am I following these orders?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the last time I think it was during Truth and Consequence that I mentioned, like, now that literally the clones and Rampart have essentially been decommissioned, at least in terms of a public facing thing for Rampart, have been decommissioned for following orders. Like, that should make Crosshair question everything that he's done up to this point.
Yeah, you would hope.
In terms of Rampart himself, I do think that was all a very, very much like a pomp and circumstance type of thing, where Palpatine makes a show of like, look, we're putting the bad guys behind bars. We're doing what's right. We thank you for snuffing out what has happened. Like literally using what the what was the General Chuchi, or not General, Senator Chuchi, like all the work that she did to expose this huge piece of corruption, and then for Palpatine to literally take it and say thank you. Thank you for showing us this. We're going to do the right thing by imprisoning Admiral Rampart, have him taken away in public, like have him literally handcuffed and escorted out of the chambers. And then, but obviously we know that there are machinations behind the, behind the curtain that will probably put Rampart right back to work in a less visible station.
I've just wondered, because I do think the same rules apply in animation. Like, if you truly don't see a character die, then they still exist and there's still potential for them to contribute. But yeah, I like Yang in here. Meta Orifice.
Oh god,
Meta Orifice. That could be a good band name. Speaking of bands,
it could be.
I've dusted off after over 15 plus years the guitar, and I can say,
oh nice,
I still am terrible, and I don't know how anyone fucking gets good at playing that instrument. But it's been a fun challenge. When I first started trying to teach myself, it was back pre-tablets. I mean, it would have been like 07, 08, you know what I mean? So I was just buying books and like flipping through books and like, oh, that's okay. You gotta do scales. You gotta, there, A chord, A minor, C, D, O, G. But now, dude, I mean, with tablets, there's almost too many guitar training apps, and I found some of them, like Musician, are almost like a rock band, and I feel like that's kind of where I'm drawn to. Like, I don't want to learn music theory. I just want to be able to sit there and maybe one or two string play songs that someone goes like, oh, I think I know what that is. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking to become.
Like, I know that there was a game for Xbox One that literally it came with a controller attachment that you could plug in a real guitar to it, and it would play through songs like Guitar Hero or like Rock Band, where it like tells you the strings to hit and where to hit it and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been dabbling. I haven't committed yet, and I am going to buy it, because I know if I buy it, it's just going to force me to at least stick to like a 10-minute practice routine a day, which is fine. Because I was sitting there going like, oh, I don't practice guitar, fuck. I got this, and I'd be sitting there. I'm like, yo, you sit there and you talk about you got shit to do, and here you are on your phone, doom scrolling through shit. Like, why not use that fucking time to do something productive that could yield something cool after a few years? You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of us are in this goddamn rut with these fucking phones and tablets of, I need it with me. I need to be looking at it every hour, every minute, and you're losing so much fucking time. So much time to do something productive versus scrolling through and worrying about your likes or getting into a reel rotation or a TikTok scroll. It happens. I mean, I just, before the show, I'm up there on the pot, like I got to get ready, and I get fucking lost in a goddamn reel scroll through. Just stupid shit like, oh, half-naked women. Oh, half-naked women. Oh, a street fight. Oh, a car accident. And you just keep going because these people have gotten so well at coding these algorithms to control our brains and be like, ugh. So when I'm sitting there bitching about, or a lot of times I'll hear people, I don't have time to work out. Oh, but you have 5 hours a day to put on your fucking phone? Think about it. Like, turn on your screen time on your phone and evaluate it at the end of every day. And then sit there and try to tell people that you don't have free time. We lose so much time to these things. So I'm trying to get better at put the fucking thing down and try to do something productive. Like Hogwarts Legacy even. I know, people will be like, oh, that's a video. It's still better than sitting on fucking social media. At least I'm not rotting my brain, getting angry at fellow men, friends. That's all this stuff does now. I go on social media and I start like, man, this fucking idiot friend of mine, why the fuck does he think this way? And you all have someone in your life that you feel the same way about. That shit ain't good. I want to get back to actually being productive and not making myself a better person. But if I'm willing to waste 4 hours a day on my phone, I should at least be willing to waste 15 minutes a day trying to learn an instrument or a new skill, like painting or Dungeons and Dragons, for Christ's sake. There you go. There's your PSA for this show. Here's Connor. Preach. I had to delete Twitter because of the doom scrolling addiction. It is. Nick, I was about to bitch to you, but I honestly think it's a godsend. I just got noticed at Hootsuite, probably because of, Lord Genius Musk and his fucking appy charges. There's no longer going to be free Hootsuite access. Hootsuite I've been using for 13 years. It's a fantastic social media aggregator. I mean, that's why I'm so in the know about pop culture and really any bits of news. I am a very cultured motherfucker beyond Star Wars. I can talk to anyone about pretty much anything. I am well read, even if I don't sound like it a lot of the time. And that's because of this aggregator. But, Nick, the aggregator in the same light can get me going. Like, there's it. Yeah. This fucking idiot said this today. Let me click on it. And just getting angry. And I'm like, well, if Hootsuite's taken away, you know what? I might miss out. I might miss out on some cool movie announcements or a Star Wars announcement because I don't have my feeds anymore. But I'm not going to be getting angry, and I'm not going to be wasting time just scrolling through to scroll through. Fuck. Yeah, everyone should get rid of Facebook. Like, if anyone actively monitors Facebook, you have a problem. The only reason I have it is because it's so hooked into fucking Instagram. I'm afraid, like, if I move one thing, this thing's gonna break or that. But I haven't posted shit on Facebook in years. Fuck that place. All right, let's move on. So yeah, metamorphosis or meta-orifice. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be another bullshit type of episode.
I don't know. It's so hard to track at this time because, it's like at this time we've had 2 episodes in a row that were just like self-contained little stories for Omega and for children, and before that, like we had a run of stuff that was decent. Yeah, it's hard to tell. Like, I don't know what their plan is now for this season because it's strayed so far off that I don't know like where they're going to jump back onto the overall plot line.
You know what, Nick? I could see this one maybe touching in on the Sid thing. Like, they get back, like, hey, fuckhead, good thing we got our ship back because, who knows how long it would have been for you. Maybe that's the metamorphosis. They finally move beyond that. Like I said, the Bad Batch themselves gets away from being mercs and into freedom fighters. I don't think it's going to be about Crosshair. But again, like I said, it could be another one of these standalones, and the metamorphosis is truly they're dealing with another character, and that's going to be the main narrative. Like this character's going through change, and the Bad Batch has to assist them. Yeah. All right.
We'll see.
But we do know if it's not the Crosshair one, that's for sure next week. So the Outpost is going to be a banger, baby.
It's coming soon. It's coming soon.
Man.
So
I'm really trying not to bitch and moan about the 5-week adventure I'm about to have on Wednesdays, but it's hard not to think about it. It starts tomorrow. I am excited for Mandalorian season 3. I truly am, but there is a part of me, because I'm a dickhead, that is the affair is a bit soured, because I know it's going to be Mando, and then once I get that done, I'm going to feel a burning desire to then get into the Bad Batch, but then I got to teach, and then when I'm done teaching, what's left going to do? We got to get the podcast out. It's just like, fuck, these Wednesdays for the next 5 weeks are going to be awesome, but they're going to equally blow, and that's on me. Like, these are all self-brought issues, and I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get beyond it. The Star Wars time show therapy isn't helping none of that stuff. So, all right, speaking of Mando, though, let's go ahead and switch things up here. We are going to do a little special topic on Mandalorian Season 3. We're going with our predictions. Last week we went with our once predictions this week. But before we get there, I thought we'd touch on a new story that dropped, I believe, yesterday that's been getting some play, obviously, because it's got some buzzwordy character names in there. But obviously, a lot of the creatives for The Mandalorian, they've been out on the press tour the past few weeks. And the one we're going to talk about here is Dave and Rick. So Dave Filoni and Rick Famuyiwa were talking to Deadline, and the subject came up of Cara Dune and how that may or may not be addressed in The Mandalorian Season 3. And, I kind of broke down, pulled their quotes. But I would like to report, for the second time, Nick, I used ChatGPT to write the article. So
nice.
The two summary paragraphs you see here, if you're on the live stream, that is from our AI assistant. And then I brought in the quotes. But essentially, we got Rick and Dave sitting down with Deadline talking about Cara Dune and her fate. So here we go. First one coming from Rick, who, by the way, we learned also in this interview is directing episode 1, 7, and 8. So Rick has really kind of stepped up his directorial duties this season. I think he's only been one each. Yeah, like one in season 1, 1 and 2 maybe, or maybe 2 and 1 and 1 and 2, something like that. But you got to think about Nick. He's getting the premiere and essentially the final episode. So, I mean, he's getting the meat.
He's definitely becoming one of the favorites. Like one of the favorites for The Mandalorian in particular. So,
hey, real quick, Bat, if you got a link for that, hit me, because I that would be new as in the last 2 or 3 hours. Bat's saying that he's heard Jon Favreau said Grogu was with Luke for 2 years, and I would have to disagree. But if you got that, he's the guy, and then I will agree. But that's a link somewhere, and it's legit. Let me know. Because there's another story going around I didn't even cover because it was on leaks, but it also didn't get coverage from any people that do leaks. And that's the fact, Nick, that they're kicking the tires on doing short stories with Han, Luke, and Leia. Live action.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool.
That'd be a lot of Uncanny Valley, but yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
It's just breaking. All right, hold on. Like while Bat's doing that,
so it's linking to, like, I see the post on on Reddit is 27 minutes ago. It's an interview. And let's see.
Okay, well,
Screen Rant.
If John's
how long was? Yeah, let's see. Jon Favreau hinted Grogu was with Luke Skywalker for up to a year.
Okay.
Speaking with IGN last year. I mean, how long ago was this? This was 2 days ago. I mean, it's inside of a podcast, and then it says it's at the 8-minute mark. So, I mean, I don't want to take up a bunch of time here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was last week or maybe even one of the posts we're going to talk about now. I mean, Favreau did say that there was time he said there's time that has passed between Book of Boba and Mando season 3. So I have not seen this yet.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what he says.
All right. Kick me a link so I can bring it up on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, it's not written anywhere. Like, there's no articles about it, but this is where it's from. So let's see.
Oh shit! This just happened yesterday because Katie was posting herself in that dress. So this is definitely
okay. Yeah, I mean, literally, John says we've been 2 years apart from him there training. So I don't know if the way that is worded is yeah. I mean, I think it almost feels like it's been 2 years since he trained with Luke.
He's saying real humans have been away from Grogu for 2 years or something.
No, like here's the exact quote. Okay. I'll recite it to you.
All right, let it rip.
So he says, with Luke, we've been 2 years apart from him there training. So that to me almost reads like he went to train with Luke, and now it's been 2 years since he's been there.
Yes, I agree. You're right. That's why you gotta. That's why you gotta This is called media literacy, my friends. All right.
Yeah, no.
We all fall prey to this. You really got to dig in sometimes.
So yeah, I think it's easy to misconstrue, and I don't know, maybe I fucking didn't interpret it right.
Say it one more time.
But okay, yeah, I mean, it's literally right at the 8-minute mark on this video, and he says he went to train with Luke. Hold on, let me back it up one more time. Yeah. Went back with Luke. Now we've been 2 years apart from him there training. He went back. Yeah. So Favreau says he's been with the Mandalorian many years, and then he went with Luke, and he's been back with Luke okay, one more time. This is the last time I'm gonna do it.
No, Luke, you got it, man. You got it. You wordsmith it.
We've been 2 years apart from him there training. To me, that says he was gone, like he's been away from Luke's training for 2 years, but I don't know.
Which means, and that's what I was saying, I did see something where he said time has passed between Book of Boba and Mando S3. So now what he's saying, Nick, is 2 years or close to it. Yeah,
it's been 2 years since he left Luke. Like since he left Luke and chose to come back.
Fucking crazy if you think about it. So essentially from the end of Book of Boba Fett until tomorrow morning when we're watching it, 2 years has passed.
Yeah, so
unless he's saying where the Book of Boba Fett, there was years passing between episode 5 and 6 or 6 and 7 when Grogu decided to come back, and I don't think that's the case. I think that was all happening bing bang boom. Mando, because I just watched it. Mando goes to Luke's temple. I want to see him. Ahsoka's like, not a good idea. Okay, here's the gift. I'll leave. He leaves. At the end of that episode is the choice. You know, hey, do you want the armor or do you want the saber? And then we get to the finale, and Grogu's on his way back with R2 with the shirt. So, yeah, I think you got it. I think it's so. Wow. I mean that means Grogu, lightly trained Force Grogu, and non-Mando Mando have been mucking around the galaxy for 2 years since Book of Boba Fett. That's kind of wild. That's a lot of fucking time.
Yeah, I mean,
so you're right, Nick. They better be fucking talking. Tomorrow as soon as we hit play.
I did a calculation on this because I was like, am I being an asshole for assuming that he should talk at this point in his life? Yoda died when he was 900, right? You know, in the temple 900.
Right.
We found Grogu when he was 50.
Correct.
Now we assume at least 2 years has passed, probably 3. So it's 53.
Yeah.
Divided by 900.
Agree. Yeah.
That's 6. So 53 years is 6% of your life if you live to 900.
Yeah, so he's toddler or less.
What age did children start talking? 2?
Yeah. Late 1, 2. Right.
Yeah, 1 or 2. So let's call it 1.5.
And talking, it's like caveman speak. You know, it's still.
But it's like
it's enough that they can communicate, but it's still broken.
Yeah, it's not like coos and babbles.
Correct.
So 1.5 years is 2% of your life if you live to 75. So it's all, so like even by that calculation, like what percentage of your life are you talking versus not talking? Grogu is way past the point where humans usually start talking. Because I was like, well, maybe because of the extended life, they have a lot more time before they start talking. But he's already spent 6% of his life being nonverbal and unable to communicate. So he's got to get there soon. Are you going to tell me he spends the first 10%
that's
of his
my
life
point.
not
like
talking?
If these two have been together as homies for 2 years, and they don't have a way to communicate besides sign language and coos, you're gonna riot, right? Like that's like you're gonna fucking burn the house down.
It doesn't make sense in a biological perspective. Like it especially for a species that is as wise as that species is.
And Kevin brings up the point in the chat here that Yoda did say train Jedi for 800 years and he died at 900. So by at least by 100, he was capable of. He was already training Jedi.
Yeah, it's like not only was he capable of communication, but he was at essentially master level as a Jedi to be able to train others that aren't his race. So like, I don't know if this kid just has a very stunted developmental cycle because of all that he's gone through, which is very possible. But like to have spent 6% of your life not talking is insane. Could you imagine?
I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. The other thing you could say is, I mean, when he was taken, he was probably 20, around that, when he was taken from the temple. He's probably about 20 years old when he was in the temple. So 20 for them, again, you're like out of the womb, I guess, the way they're treating Grogu. So, you go through that traumatic situation. Could that mute him out? There are situations even with humans where if they go through trauma early on, they can become mute. So maybe they're working that angle, that just everything that happened to him from the fall of the Republic until Din found him just completely fucked him up mentally. Even Luke, like I said, I rewatched Book of Boba Fett, yay me. But even Luke talking to Ahsoka goes like, I don't necessarily think it's me training him versus more him remembering things. So, you could make the argument that Grogu, to protect himself, mentally fucking blocked everything about his childhood. Speaking.
That is possible.
The Force, you name it. So we'll see. Now I'll save it for our predictions, but I think something will move forward in that front, but probably not to the point where he's a Yaddle or a Yoda.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor brought it up correctly in the chat. Like, he is essentially equal to about a 5.5-year-old human child. So just imagine like what Charlie was doing at like 5 or 6 years old. Like, she was
full on conversationalist.
Yeah, so it's just, so I hope that they address it in some way, shape, or form. If it is something like that, where he has chosen or was like his response to the trauma that he went through as a true child resulted in his, not being able to communicate at this age or what. But like, I really do think that like it needs to be addressed. Like, it seems odd that they haven't even talked about it.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I do think, though, if it does get addressed and they're like, listen, it's just, that's his choice. I mean, he's chosen to go mute. He's told us through the Force. We know he can at least communicate through the Force. I think I would still be okay with that. Like, as long as it's addressed in some capacity, I'll be all right. I'm not so hung up on Grogu needs to start spitting out words, but as long as they address why he doesn't speak at this point in time, if that's the case, then all right, I think I can handle that. But yeah, I do. That's crazy. A 2-year time jump. I mean, I wonder. I don't have to. I know they're not going to. But you know what, Nick? I mean, that helps to better explain how Navarro went from a fucking backwoods, Outer Rim-esque planet to what Grief has it turned into in the trailers. I mean, yeah, they could easily do that in 2 years. So, all right, I can get down with that. It's just crazy. I mean, because they really haven't ever talked about time over season 1 and season 2 and even Book of Boba Fett, but I do think those all were kind of like bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. All right. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, 1 day away from the recording of the show.
Only 30 minutes, though, Nick. What can they do in 30 minutes?
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, it's a.
I just like you have Trevor now, like pulling out his abacus, doing calculations for all this. I love it. He's like, hold on, maybe 16 or 5 or I don't fucking know.
No, yeah, I mean, if you take it as a percentage of life, with your end of life being 900 as a Grogu species, and then I just used end of life for a human at 75 because that's average.
Is that going down? Hopefully. Like, is our life expectancy going down? I think it needs to. I
mean, I would imagine it's probably gone down a little bit since COVID. But I mean, life expectancy in like the mid 20 teens was around 80. So yeah,
I don't really know if humans need to live much longer than that, though. If you know what I mean. Like, we're really not meant to to make it to in the 90s and 100s. We become burdens to ourselves and society. Just bags of meat, really, is what we turn into. Broken down bags of meat. Hopefully by that time, we're allowed to just self-euthanize. That's what I would go for.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I just saw a case, I think it was in Texas. It makes sense, where an old lady got charged with murder because she self-assisted suicided her husband. And they eventually, after, through some of the proceedings, they reduced it to just like it's not a felony, or like she's not going to spend life in jail anymore. Like, yeah, she really did just help her husband kill himself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just to address Trevor in the chat, you did do the math wrong. 50 is not 20% of 50 is not 20% of 1,000.
Yeah,
200 is 20% of 1,000
would be 200.
200. Yeah. It's 50 is
an accelerated puberty. Yeah, sure. That's what we're going to see in season 4. It's going to be Grogu the masturbation years, where Din's going to keep catching him like whacking off in space toilets. Instead of stealing M&Ms, he's going to be like grabbing nudie magazines of Twi'leks.
Yeah, I mean, I just
all right. Well, thank you for that. We like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I like those mid.
I'm interested
deals.
to see how they handled the maturation process for this species, because we've never seen it before.
Yeah, the 2 years. The more I think about it, the more it lines up. Obviously, you got, like we said, Navarro's built up. Grogu is they've gone out of their way to explain, like, no, Grogu he's not like needs protected now. He's handling his shit. So, okay. Anyways, back to our Mando S3 story that we got into real quick. So again, we're talking about an interview between Dave Filoni and Rick Famuyiwa. They sat down with Deadline to address Mandalorian Season 3, and of course they were asked about a character. So, the character being Cara Dune, who we all know, her actress was relieved of her duties back in 2021 for just, being stupid. We'll leave it at that. You just got to learn social media can burn you sometimes, regardless of your viewpoints. But they were asked about, all right, so what's going on with Cara Dune? And here we go. The first one comes from Rick. Cara was a big part and continues as a character to be part of the world. It had to be addressed in the creative, and Jon Favreau took the time to think about that. It was something that was discussed as we knew it was going to have impact on the show. But at the same time, what has been at the heart of the show are the two characters, Din and Grogu. So ultimately, it felt like a servicing of that and around the Mandalorians. So that's his way of saying, like, oh yeah, for all you Cara Dune fanboys and girls out there, she still exists in the universe. But you're not going to see her in The Mandalorian Season 3 because it's a show about Din, Grogu, and the Mandalorians resolving their fucked up culture.
Yeah.
Dave had his own word salad for this response. It's a big galaxy, and we have many characters in it. Many characters are fighting for their screen time. We'll just have to see as the season unfolds what the adventures are. But it's a great character, someone who was vital to Din Djarin's beginnings. We'll see if he has evolved beyond that. Now, Season 3 is mainly dealing with Mandalorians and the Mandalorian saga, the Mandalorian tale. There's different characters he's met since Bo-Katan takes a lot more prominence, which makes sense where his arc is going, the story of him and Grogu specifically. The Mandalorian in the title is the story about the Mandalorian and his people. End of quote.
Interesting. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like, I personally wasn't thinking about Cara Dune when it came to Season 3, but then again, I don't often think about, like, secondary characters.
Yeah,
I mean, like
listen, dude... There's a faction of Star Wars fans that considers Cara Dune to be one of the greatest characters of all time, and I'll just I tend to disagree with that. I thought she was all right in Season 1. In Season 2, I just rewatched it, and so it's fresh on the mind. It just, I don't know. It felt like Gina was emailing that shit in, mailing in the performance. Packed on a few pounds. Not that that's a bad thing. You can't say stuff like that, especially about women. But she was just off. When you would see Gina in the scenes with, Ming-Na or Katie or hell, even fucking Sasha Banks, there was a noticeable difference in acting ability. It just, I don't know. I mean, Cara Dune just kind of felt like a adulty type of frumpy character in season 2. And, you know, ultimately, yeah, she was one of Din's buddies and he came back to her. But when it comes to the main story, especially where we're moving into season 3, she clearly is not necessary to telling that tale. So,
yeah. So, I mean, she's not a Mandalorian. You know, she was a rebel shock trooper.
Yeah,
so
this
we'll
article is this again. It's like why do big sites, why are they allowed to talk to Star Wars people? Because they're like, yeah, Cara Dune, the famous bounty hunter. I'm like, what the fuck are you idiots talking about? She wasn't a fucking bounty hunter. What are you talking about? Like the whole time, she was a bounty hunter, just like Din Djarin. Like, what show are you watching, dick faces? And why do you get to interview the creatives like John, Dave, and Rick, and not Nick and I? Oh, because you got a bigger audience, but you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Idiots.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those of you that love Cara Dune, I guess the best thing to take from this, she still exists in the universe. You're just probably never going to see or hear from her again.
Yeah. I mean, it will be interesting it'll be interesting to see if they include her in comic books moving forward or like any other of the media, like books, stuff like that. I'm not sure how the likeness rights worked with the character, because oftentimes when a situation like this goes down, what could happen is you could see them in video games, you could see them in comic books or something like that, because when they signed the contract for the character, they also signed over likeness rights for other media purposes. So
I mean, that goes all the way, but just pull up some of Carrie Fisher's material when she would get on stage and do her show. I mean, she talks about that. Like, she lost her likeness because of Star Wars. I mean, they're still making fucking action figures, shampoo bottles, and whatnot that look like her. So yeah, I mean, you are right.
That was a big part of her show.
I don't think they could, like deep fake Gina back into the role and not use her in live action, but the character could pop up in comics and whatnot. And she will, because I just read that they're gonna do the comic version of Mandalorian season 2 soon, because I think well,
there you go. So now she's gonna be back, so they can continue the story of that character and other media.
I never got it. Like I think there's a faction of males that find Gina very attractive and go for it. Maybe that was the angle. But in terms of like acting and whatnot, I don't think she was a standout in the series. Straight up. Political views aside, that shit don't matter. She wasn't up to par with the rest of the cast. So I could give a fuck. And really, the best thing they have going for them is that was over 2 years ago. I mean, unless you're a sycophant about this character, you're not even going to worry about it. All right?
Yeah, I would imagine that like most of the fans have just been like, I mean, like you said, you've had Book of Boba Fett, which was essentially Mando 2.5.
She wasn't in that.
She wasn't in that. You had an entire, I mean, you had so many other Star Wars properties that have released, and she wasn't in any of those. So you would imagine that people would have moved on by now. But I mean, there are people who just kind of hold on to things like that for, whatever reason they have.
Pearls, man. That's what it is. At this point with this character, it's doing it for freedom. I'll leave it at that. Yes. It's one of those things.
We'll see.
So there you go. That's the official Mandalorian season 3 schniz we got for you. But now we got some unofficial speculation stuff. That's right. It's time to rattle through our Mandalorian season 3 predictions. And yes, we solved the mystery of Bo-Katan's more prominent scar that you may have seen in some of the new posters in the Discord. So don't forget, Star Wars Time Show Discord, sign up. Go to Instagram, bio link. But they made they gave Katie a much more pronounced Bo-Katan scar, but it has been there since the animated years. All right, dude. So last week, like I said, we did once, right? As fans, we would like to see this. This week, I changed things up. Now, these are things we're predicting. All right, sometimes we're quite good at this. Sometimes we're quite awful. I will always go back to the moment when I think it was literally our breakdown of S2E10 of the Book of Boba, where you got the Boba Fett little reveal at the end, and I said, oh shit, he might roll down the Jabba's palace and pick up the Slave One from the impound from Bib Fortuna, just fucking around, and sure shit, many episodes later, that's exactly what happened in the Stinger. So, hopefully you're writing these down, keeping score, because yes, at least myself will want some sort of recognition for any of these wins. Now, obviously, if we miss wildly, don't bring them up, okay? All right, so up first, one that we were just kind of talking about, but I am predicting, Nick, that Grogu will speak for the first time, probably towards the finale. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, I think that we really started addressing this before anybody else has, like his like communication skills. And I think that I've seen out there now that like a few other outlets may have at least brought it up.
They'll never give us credit, because I've seen recently over on Star Wars Theory, he finally got a hold of Gallard. Yeah. Releasing all the same shit we put out 2 years ago. But, of course, he's getting hundreds of thousands of views, written up in magazines like, oh, this is what the Revenge of the Sith battle was supposed to be. I was like, fuck, dude. I literally sent him our fucking interview. I mean, he essentially just copied what we did. But, hey, that's life for Star Wars Time show.
I mean, that's definitely sad considering we literally have YouTube videos clipped out from that interview that are like 2 years old. But
dude, I even did posts like snippets like, hey, this is how it should end. No one wants to go and do the research to be like, oh yeah, hey, Star Wars Time show said this first, but fine, whatever. So what do you think, Nick? Is he speaking early at all or towards the finale?
I would hope by midway point we start to get some inkling of his ability to communicate, and then maybe by the end, then we have like open communication in some way, shape, or form.
I'm in between like you and Sir Dorks. Sir Dorks going, he's far from talking. You're going, he may be spitting out sentences. I think for me, the speaking may be as simple as Din or Dad or you. Like I'm like at that level, like one step beyond cooing, where he forms a word, but it's still not. They're sitting there in battle planning how to take on the Remnant Empire. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean that would work. Anything just to like start to crack that hump. You know, start to really crack that little area. So yeah, we'll see.
Okay, next one here, and this could get into tangent territory, but I am feeling this, and I'll explain why. But I think we're going to get a version, and this would become the new canon version of Jaster Muriel. I think this is going to be Christopher Lloyd's character, and I think through this is how we're going to loop in Boba Fett to the greater Mandalorian culture stuff and wars and battles and whatnot. Just little backstory on Jaster. I mean, he's had a few revisions in his Star Wars life. His legend tale, he was Boba Fett. Literally, Jaster Muriel was Boba Fett in Legends. That was Boba Fett's real name. He took on the moniker of Boba Fett once he, kind of fucked up stuff on Mandalore and became a bounty hunter. Then he got kind of recanonized again once George retconned that story of Jaster Muriel with Attack of the Clones, and Jango Fett was Boba Fett's dad, and Boba Fett was actually a clone. So that kind of got rid of that legend tale of Jaster. But, Nick, if you remember from The Mandalorian, the episode where they're on Tython, and he breaks out his little deal like, hey, I'm this guy, I'm Boba Fett. Remember, a fan broke it down. It literally, within the breakdown, essentially, mentor Jast, father Jango, Boba. So we already have an established connection in the Mando-verse with Boba Fett to Jango Fett to Jaster Muriel. Because, and we learned through the Mando-verse, which is now canon, that Jango Fett, just like Din Djarin, was a foundling. And Jaster would have been his mentor, his keeper, like Din is Grogu's keeper. So to me, it makes a lot of sense that they tease that in The Mandalorian. We know Boba has issues with the idea of Mandalorian culture, but we also know Boba is, very loyal to his clone father and therefore is going to have some sort of love or knowledge or ties to this Jaster Muriel, who more than likely could be leading another faction of Mandalorians, which, like I said, could lead to Boba Fett getting involved in the big Mandalorian culture war that, quite frankly, that's the last thing he would want to do. But if Jaster's involved, you would think through the family ties, he may heed the call.
You would show some interest at the very least. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this character has gone through so many revisions, and like, I think even in Legends, like, he was killed at some point, but as of right now, he's still alive. And given the fact that he was Jango Fett's mentor, it would put him right around an age where Christopher Lloyd could play him, because Christopher Lloyd himself is in his 80s now, I believe. So I think that's a good call. Obviously teased, like you mentioned, from the chain code. So yeah, I mean, Christopher Lloyd is born 1938.
Oh, so he's like 100.
I mean, he's 80. Yeah, he's like 85. So
yeah,
I
don't know. I just feel, thanks to Dave and obviously John through Dave's tutelage, that they are very precise with breadcrumbs like that. Like, I don't think you have that chain code moment just for shits and giggles to prove, like, yeah, this really is my armor. You don't sprinkle that stuff into the hour besh for fans to decipher for fun. It's like how they included the spur sound into the stinger in season 1 when you saw those legs walking up to Fennec Shan's corpse. Yep. It's just they put this stuff in there for a reason. So I'm going out on a limb with that prediction.
I think that's a good call, especially since we know that this season is going to be so heavily focused on Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, I mean, I am fucking geeked, friends. Like, I mean, Mando is the shit first and foremost. But this season is going to dive into the nitty-gritty of Mandalore and the Mandalorians. It should rival, if not surpass, what Star Wars Rebels was starting to do in its late seasons with, putting a focus on the different factions and the clans and the leaders of the clans and which clans can work together, which clans hate each other. I mean, there's a reason when we see Mandalore that the planet looks destroyed. It was fucking destroyed before the Empire did it. These people had to live in domes because of centuries of warring with each other. Like, it's a fucked up race, a fucked up culture, and that's what this season is going to broach. It's going to finally tackle that and force these people to essentially go through what we're going to see as Mandalorian therapy, which is probably going to consist of some fighting, some punching, some kicking, some stabbing, maybe a few deaths. But then they will come to a resolution that, why the fuck are we doing this? Why are we beholden to these old scriptures and creeds and beliefs? Or how can we make the creed now work better for us? That's what we're going to get to.
Give me a full anti-creed push. That's what I'm going for.
No, you really do. Like, I want more insights into why does the armor and her ilk truly believe that this is the way? Like, what from Mandalorian history has showed them that this is the way?
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is it's like, at first I was like, okay, Creed maybe existed because Mandalorians were being hunted down. Like, Mandalorians were being actively sought out and destroyed by the Empire. But, like, Mandalorians don't all look the same. It's not like, it's not like you're hunting an alien race where it's like, we're going to go out and we're going to kill every Zabrak that we see.
Yes.
Very easy to pick out. You would need to wear a helmet to hide the fact.
Yeah, you're right. Like, their logic is backwards. Their logic is backwards.
Yeah. Like, to hide. In fact, if you are wearing full Mandalorian armor, it is the most obvious to know that you're a Mandalorian. You would actually be safer if you were wearing no armor at all.
I mean, bro, what do they call Din Djarin around the galaxy? Because of his kit, what do they call him? The Mandalorian.
Yeah. It's like, so, like, you would think that, like, by logic, of like, we need to stay hidden from the people who are trying to kill us because we're Mandalorian.
Armor's bad.
That would essentially mean like, don't wear your armor because you're all humans and you look like everybody else.
Yeah, you know what? I really have never thought about that, and that's a great reminder as to why none of us should ever get that upset about Star Wars. All right, because if you really start poking holes into it, it's dumb as fuck. Like that. Yeah, that is the best revelation I think you've cooked up this year so far. I mean, really think about what Nick just said. He's 100% right. Like if their creed is you can't take off your armor and helmet, but we need to stay hidden so we can regain our numbers. Like, how does that make any sense?
Yeah. It's like now you're not only not allowing yourself to like procreate and like actually build your numbers up because you're not allowed to take your armor off. So you can't have sexy time with other Mandalorians, but you're also putting yourself in a position to where you have to live underground because you have to wear your armor all the time.
Right. Like, I mean, Jared's bringing up a good point. Remember the armor is like, yo, you're gonna get a lot of new attention with that shiny new kit I just made for you. So it's like they're gluttons for punishment. The armorer and her kind are.
Yeah. If anything, the creed should be only wear your armor when you absolutely have to.
Yeah, when you're kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh man.
Okay. Next one here, and again, this was a want, but it also works as a prediction, and I think it just is going to follow the formula that Dave and John have set forth. And Sabine Wren's live-action debut, and I'm thinking it's going to be via Ahsoka. That's where I'm kind of getting out on a limb, because I'm trying to, why would Ahsoka, since this is going to be such a Mando-focused season, why Ahsoka? But I don't know. I have a feeling he may reach out, or may catch wind that a Jedi's traveling with a somewhat famous Mandalorian. But I do think Sabine, just for the sake that she's in the Ahsoka show, will be delivered to us by the orange unaligned Force user.
But I think that's a good call. I actually think that if they don't have Sabine Wren in this season, it would be an unholy mismanagement of how this was written.
It makes too much sense. We're getting into the Mandalorian thing. She is one of the most, if we really think about it, and I'm gonna catch shit for this, but before Mando and the Book of Boba Fett, she was probably the most detailed and fleshed out Mandalorian character in canon. Think about it.
Yeah, even more so than Boba or Jango. I mean, we spent years,
four seasons learning about this girl and Mandalorians through her. So, I mean, more than Jango, more than Boba, more than Bo-Katan and the Mandos from the Clone Wars. So, I mean, she is huge. I mean, essentially because of Rebels and Sabine and the extending into Mandalore and Mandalore society and culture, that's why the Mando-verse exists. That's why this season exists. It's going to be looking back on a lot of those threads from Rebels. So, yeah, you're right. Sabine almost has to be in this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Sticking with Mandos and reveals, I really am. The more I think about this, and I'll explain myself, I do think the armor is going to be revealed as Rookcast. And, I've gotten hung up in the past, Nick, on things Bo-Katan has said, things the armor has said. One thing that always stands out to me is, and really, I think it's from the trailer. We're about to see this, but she says, "Your kind fractured our people." And I've always been like, well, that's bullshit on Bo's part, because technically her and Death Watch were the first fracture. And really before that, if you truly study Mandalorian society, like I said, they have been warring all the way up to the invasion of the Empire. I mean, the Empire.
Yeah, I mean, they went through a civil war between a faction that called themselves true Mandalorians and regular Mandalorians.
Yeah, you'd have Concord Dawn Mandalorians fighting Mandalorians. You had other people on the fucking moon. I mean, they're a mess. I mean, they're messy people. But if you think about it from Bo's perspective, and really even from our perspective, a character like Rookcast, who willingly threw in with Maul, who murdered her sister, lied to even Death Watch. Like literally played Pre-Vizsla and played all of Death Watch to get what he wanted. But there was people like Gar Saxon and Rook Cass that still made the choice. Fuck it. I'm going to side with Maul. And then some of those even went on to become Imperial Super Commandos, maybe under Moff Gideon himself.
I was about to say, it could be under Moff Gideon himself, but obviously it was under, Gar Saxon led the Imperial Super Commandos under the Imperial reign, and like all of the, like Gar Saxon was directly involved with the formation of the Mandalorians. So, I mean, there is a lot and that makes sense for Rook Cass.
Well, that's the thing, Nick. Armored. Gar and Rook, they were like buddies. I mean, they rescued Maul from imprisonment. I mean, they went out of their way to worship Maul, follow Maul, so on and so forth. So I could see, even more than what Death Watch did to their society, I could see where Bo is saying like, no, you fuckers that were even in Death Watch and then turned your back on us and sided with Maul, you're the ones that truly fractured our society. But from Rook's point of view, you could see why she would want to follow Creed now. She doesn't want to fucking reveal her face. She's a goddamn traitor to the Mandalorians.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how cool of a reveal that would be. I mean, she's essentially been gaslighting people for 30 years. You got to live this way because I fucked everything up and people can't find out who I am. and
that makes way more sense than there really being a creed saying like, you can't take your helmet off, because now that there are followers of this creed, this quote unquote creed, it doesn't seem odd that there's one Mandalorian that never takes their helmet off. Now you have now it's a faction of Mandalorians that don't take their helmet off.
Yeah, I mean, Bo calls them a cult. Yeah, your cult destroyed us, essentially.
So, and it makes total sense that the reason behind that is, I don't want anybody to see my face because I am what caused the downfall of our society by and large.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, Death Watch helped. Like, they dumped the gasoline out, but people like Rook, Gar, and then Maul and the rest of the Mandalorians, they're the ones that fucking lit the thing on fire.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned this before. Just look at her fucking helmet. She's got
the
little
helmet
horn nubs. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's clear.
Or, we could find out she's still a rube for the Empire. I mean, she could be an agent of Moff Gideon even now. How's that?
That's very true.
Because we've heard through rumors and leaks that Gideon's getting himself a kit, and his helmet also is going to have little armor nubs on it.
Hey, man.
So we could learn that Gideon, through the ISB, was working with the Mandalorians, took on when they become the Super Commandos, and he was working with Mandalorians themselves to destroy Mandalore. You heard it here first. Yeah. Take it to the bank. All right. Other ones that
this next one's interesting because I think this is a bit of a stretch, but it'll be fun to talk about.
I just have Din rides a mythosaur. Again, the breadcrumbs were laid down in the Book of Boba Fett when she verbatim recites to him what the mythosaur is, what it means if a Mandalorian rides one, and how it will change their destiny, so on and so forth. And I just feel like that's where things are headed.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting because for all that we know in canon, mythosaurs have been extinct for
they're like the dinosaurs
millennia.
Of Star Wars.
Exactly, like they've been extinct since before the Mandalorian cataclysm, which was the back in like the old Republic, the Mandalorian Jedi Wars, which predated Revan becoming a Dark Lord of the Sith. So that's like thousands of years ago.
Tens of thousands.
So like they have been or supposedly have been extinct since before that period of time. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually have do they pull like a Game of Thrones where in Game of Thrones, nobody'd seen dragons in fucking God knows how long, whatever it was.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, there's an egg. We've been keeping an egg, or you found an egg, and then it hatches into a mythosaur, and that would be pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, Connor's he took the prophecy as the armor spoke to be Boba as the mythosaur, not an actual creature. Boba's gonna get involved 100%, and I think it is gonna be through the angle I just pitched. But Boba, you got to remember, this dude he thinks Mandalorian culture's horseshit. I mean, like in Book of Boba, the finale, him and Din have a little talk, and he's essentially like, Din, why are you here, buddy? Like, come on. Like, you know we're fucked. Why? You don't need to die with us. And Din's like, hey, buy the creed, motherfucker. And Boba's like, that's a bunch of bullshit. It's like, why?
Yeah, Boba's like, what?
Fuck the creed, man.
What are you talking about?
But I appreciate you. You know what I mean? He's like, hey, whatever, dude. I'm not going to get in the weeds with you, but you guys are weirdos. So, no, I don't see that. I really do see a fucking beast, like a true prophecy coming forward. And Nick, I think you made a good correlation to Game of Thrones. I feel it would be similar like that. It's not like they're going to just stumble upon a pack of mythosaurs in the mines of Mandalore. It may be a little more mystical than that. Now, I don't know if Din's going to get down and start doing like Samoan war dances, or how about this? What if the only way to bring back the mythosaur, to raise a mythosaur or rise them, however you would say it, is through a true Mandalorian Jedi? What if Grogu is part of the key to awakening a mythosaur? I don't know. I mean, I got more to. I guess we'll move on to my next prediction, since I kind of brought it up here. But I have Grogu inches even closer to becoming the next Tar Vizsla. I could see. They've been talking about, like, listen, Grogu's still going to be a main thing. Grogu may break the internet this season, but in the end, think about what Grogu has always done in season 1 and season 2. He brings these disparate groups together, and they usually end up doing something great, better, more than they could have done on their own without Grogu as motivation. So why not? Why not Grogu being the motivation for these Mandalorians to get over their shit when they see him in Beskar and they see that he has the Force and they remember the stories of Tar? What if Grogu's down there shaking his little hand and he awakens something under the earth? So I don't know. I mean, I'm getting a little off rails here, but that's what we do when we speculate. I like to take things a little beyond the common man would. So
yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a very interesting perspective to take towards, the resurrection of the mythosaur and stuff like that, but it kind of makes sense.
Do you think in their minds, though, they're looking at Grogu as the potential successor to Tar in terms of a hybrid character like that? It hasn't been done since Tar. That's what I mean. It would be a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. I think that Grogu needs to come a long way very quick. Like a long way very quickly to be able to take up that mantle, and especially because like Tar was a Mandalorian before he was a Jedi. Like Tar became a Jedi because he was a Force sensitive Mandalorian, and then came back to the Mandalorian culture as essentially their de facto leader because of how powerful he was, and that's when the Mandalorian culture was built around power. It was built around power. It was built around war. It was built around the fighting spirit of the Mandalorians, which is why
he's the Darksaber guy.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody like Tar could immediately come back from Force training and be like, "I'm your leader now, bitch," because nobody is going to be able to stop me.
I got Beskar and a fucking lightsaber. Eat it.
Yeah, it's like, what are you going to do? I do think that like it would be an interesting storyline to follow into the future for Grogu if that is the path that he takes, because he has chosen the path of the Mandalorian willingly. It wasn't like he was, even Din, you could argue, really didn't choose the life of a Mandalorian willingly.
No, he was adopted into it.
Yeah, he was adopted into it, and he really had no choice because of who saved him. Like, it's not like the armorer was going to save this kid, and then when he got old enough, the kid could then just choose to leave. That's not how cults work. Like, when you're in a cult and you have been indoctrinated into a cult from the time when you were a child, they're not. They don't just say like, okay, you're 15 now, so see you later if you want to. Like, you are in it. So it is going to be interesting to see like what Grogu's journey is, because I think that like that is one thing that we really haven't seen yet. Like the closest that we got to like Grogu's journey was him going off and training with Luke for that period of time and then coming back. Like now what we are actually going to see is Grogu's choice of his journey, because I don't even think going to Luke was his choice. Like that was a choice that others made for him.
Yeah, it was like the right thing to do. Oh, well, I mean, I just rewatched, and he does, when Luke shows up, Luke tells Din, like, listen, he needs your permission to leave. So I would argue that I think Grogu at least wanted to try it out, but I think he learned quickly, like, no, I love that guy too much. I can't do this shit. Fuck you. Give me my shirt. I'm out of here.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to track his larger journey throughout the rest of the Mandalorian, because it is something that they're going to need to address even in the sequel trilogy era if he survives that long. Like, that is by essentially having a brand new character that lives 900 years.
Yeah, he would be about 100, right around the 100 coming up on the sequel trilogy, just shy of 100.
Yeah, and
Yoda technically was training motherfuckers by then, right? So
by the time he was 100 years old. So like that is something that they're going to need to address moving towards the sequel trilogy now, is like, what was Grogu's journey and where did he end up by the time that we meet Rey and Finn and Poe and the rest of the people?
That's why I'm kind of leaning towards I think he's gonna choose the path of the Mandalore. Like I think that's they're positioning this season as Mandalore season 3. Everything Mandalore, everything Mandalorians. Here we go. And if you even just hear some of the trailers and some of the dialogue, you can feel Din is he's training Grogu as a true Mandalorian foundling now. He's telling him about the creed. He's telling him about, hey, yeah, you need to learn how to fight and armor and all this stuff, but you also need to learn how to get around the galaxy. So he really has, at this point, fully taken on the mantle as his foundling father. I don't know, is there an official term for these people? But Din has become the same person that rescued him during the Clone Wars. So he is training Grogu, I think, to walk the path. Now, where that goes, who knows? I mean, they could end up being a power couple together, or Grogu could choose to walk his own path. But I really think they're going to kind of position this season as these two are learning the ways of the Mandalore together. They're in it to win it. They're committed. Grogu's committed to Din getting his shit back, and Grogu's committed to learning more about being a Mandalorian.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see where that goes. I think this next one that you have here,
Darksaber drama.
I have a theory here, or something that
I'll let you run. Here's what it was: Darksaber drama resolved with new twist and understanding. So that's how I had it written, because I don't think it's just going to be, Din, give me the saber. I challenge you to a fight. I'm Bo-Katan. I don't think that's how it's going to play out. I think a new understanding is going to take shape with this thing that the Mandalorians are going to agree to and live with moving forward. What's your thought?
I think that, or I don't think this. This is what I would like to see happen. I'll put it that way. So this is not what I think is going to happen. This is what I would like to see happen. That the Darksaber is destroyed. If you think about Mandalorian society after the introduction of the Darksaber and after Tar Vizsla's passing, as leader of Mandalore, and having this totem be who is the leader? Like, whoever holds this totem is the leader of the Mandalorian
their whole culture's
society.
Beholden to it. A fucking story about it.
And it's been exploded. Ever since then, the Mandalorian culture and way of life has been nothing but infighting, civil wars, and failed conquests. So, like, it's only done damage to the Mandalorian society. Like, it's never, aside from when Tar held it himself, and when he was, I mean, you could even argue that during the reign of Tar Vizsla as the Mandalore, like, things weren't great. But especially since then, when they have been solely beholden to this sword as the leader, whoever holds this is the leader of their society, they've been in complete chaos.
Yeah, dude, they were in civil war all the way up to the invasion of the Empire.
Exactly. So, in my opinion, the best thing to do for Mandalorian society and culture in general is to sunder that blade completely and move on with an actual system of self-governance.
I like it.
That is sustainable and that promotes growth and like cultural, cultural growth and growth as a people outside of just your planet of Mandalore. So that's what I want to see happen. It would be such a move if they did that, because the Darksaber is so ingrained in like Star Wars history.
I mean, honestly, Nick, I fucking love it. And it still fits within my prediction, because I worded it loosely enough that your explanation, and that to me is probably the best explanation for how this should go down, because they really are. They're in a fucking corner with this thing. Din doesn't want it. He can't give it up. Are Din and Bo really going to fucking fight to the death? Absolutely not. Are they going to, be a little pissy towards each other? Is she going to be pissy towards him? Absolutely, for a little bit. But I think Nick said it expertly. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm with you, dude. There's the prediction. Fuck a want. That's a prediction. It's going to happen. I do think that is the best path forward, even though it's going to piss collectors off and people that want to buy Darksabers or new versions of Darksabers.
Clearly, we know that they don't give a shit about pissing off collectors, because they blew up the what was it, the Razor Crest, immediately in season 2.
Yeah, no, Nick, they blew it up after a bunch of us committed $400 to buying a version of it. Yes, you're right. So.
Yeah. So they're like, who gives a shit about the collectors?
Yeah, there you go. You got Buckethead Barney in here. Does Grogu wield the Darksaber? I mean, that thing's fucking huge. He'd have to wield it with the Force, but that would be kind of cool looking to see him using the Force to wield it. I wasn't even remotely thinking what Nick was thinking, but I love it. I think that's a fantastic idea, because you're right. It's been nothing but the bane of their existence. Whether, even though they look at it as this holy relic, it's a fucking curse. It's a fucking curse. So I love that idea. All right. Next prediction: Moff Gideon leading crew of former Mandalorians in battle against Din and Bo's forces. So, kind of a little spin-off of what I said earlier. We've heard rumors that Gideon's going to get a new kit. It's going to be Mandalorian-esque. We saw those red guards. Remember, we showed you the image, and we all were like, you know what? Those fucking helmets look pretty goddamn similar to Mandalorian helmets, especially in the eye slits. Look at the armor, make those comparisons. So I could see him, and the reason why he is like still all into the Mandalorian culture and needs his own armor is because he still has some of his former compatriots from when he was ISB. And, could the armor be revealed as a double agent? I don't know. I think it's unlikely, but I'll definitely take the win if it happens. But I do think once the Mandalorians get over their shit, there is going to be a big battle against a big bad, and that big bad to me is going to be Gideon, maybe a few of these other Moffs, but I think Gideon and those Praetorian guards will be former Mandalorians. I'm not saying Gideon is, but the people he will be working with, fighting with, will be former Mandos, which means he's not going to be such a pushover when this fight happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. I mean, we already knew that he had some sort of connection, or like has wanted to have a connection
like a wannabe.
to Mandalorian
he's a wannabe something.
For a while. And the fact that there are Mandos that are out there that would probably be willing to ally with him, if only to help with their conquest, like to do again what Mandalorians have been doing for centuries, a conquest against their own people. They would almost look at Gideon as like, hey, if we can just get this guy and his resources on our side, we can use him in the battle against our kin, and then when we win, we can just fucking be done with him. Just take care of him.
I've always looked at him as a wannabe, but there's something going on there. I mean, if he was ISB on the planet, which is canon, he was able to wield the Darksaber with no effort. So clearly his mind was clear. He was open to it, unlike Din, who still doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. But yeah, there's something with Gideon in the Mandalorians, and we still have the old Force DNA subplot with that guy too. I think Gideon could give us a few eye-opening or revealing moments this season, if anything else. Okay, Grogu's Jedi Temple Savior revealed to be ... I don't know, man. I kind of hedged on this. I guess my prediction is we're going to at least get the Savior, but I'm too big of a puss to go out on a limb and put a name to it. I just, nothing really makes sense to me.
I mean,
Barriss makes no sense. She should have been in fucking jail. Mace Windu makes no sense. He should be flattened.
I mean, that's the thing is like, of the Jedi that we know, none of them really make sense.
Jocasta Nu, maybe. I mean, the librarian hiding out.
Like that's, and the thing is like Jocasta Nu has been out there for a lot of theories. Like
she was Snoke at one point in time, dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say when Snoke was revealed, everybody's like, "That's Jocasta Nu," and like we don't even. I mean, like we don't know if she's alive or dead. I mean, like the thing is none of the Jedi that we know by name make any sense to be his savior.
That's like, where I'm like mind fucked on that. I can't get beyond it. So, but would they go with a no-namer? Would they go with a no-namer though?
It also. It may not be a Jedi. I mean, I think that the closest that we got in terms of stuff that makes sense is it was somehow the Batch. Like, but we know it's not the Batch because we've seen what happened to them during that. Yeah, like during that time period. So, I mean, who else was a non-Jedi?
Are there any droids that would stand out that you could think of? I mean,
that could do what we saw. I mean, here's the thing, is that we know he was taken by, it almost seems like he was taken by bad people. He was kidnapped because from the scene that we saw, from the vision that we saw in the trailer, there were Jedi protecting him. You could see Jedi.
And this is the second instance because you gotta remember in Book of Boba, when we get the first flashback, there's already a line of Jedi protecting him that fall, and you see the 501st running towards him. You don't know if they're actually pointing at him, but when we see his perspective, you're made to feel like, they're coming right for him. But then, as you said, we have this new trailer, and it looks like another wall of fucking Jedi are there protecting him, and someone's coming through the door. Is that someone the savior, or is that someone, the chosen one, who's looking to hack shit in pieces?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, man. It's just so hard to try to track his journey because there's so much.
I mean, remember, he was early Jedi Railroad, but that literally, we're talking his save is Order 66 Knight. So was Quinlan there? Bail is one I've thought, Buckethead Barney. I have thought Bail Organa could be but
it's not.
He shows up late. You remember Bail shows up late after they're already cleaned house and they're shooting jet out there on the docks. So
I think that the way that we have to think about it is it's not a save. Like they're not saving him, they're kidnapping him, because you wouldn't be saving him from the Jedi that are protecting him. That's like, I think that's where the misconception comes in, is like, we now know, at least based off of this vision that we saw recently in the trailer, that he was being protected by Jedi, and that somebody is coming through this door to not save him, but to kidnap him. So we have to assume that he's being taken by Imperial forces, whether it be Imperial forces as in like a shitload of stormtroopers coming in, or like clandestine Imperial forces who are taking him specifically because they already had this plan for using his DNA for cloning purposes. It's not a save. It's a kidnapping. So who kidnapped him? It wasn't Anakin. There's no way he could have done it in the time that he had to essentially, I mean, like, it would have been weird for him to literally be in the temple wiping out all of the Jedi younglings and the people there protecting them, make this pit stop to like take this kid somewhere, and then also get to Mustafar to fight. I mean,
it technically could happen, but I think they would almost have to give us some backstory then, where Palpatine specifically said, "Hey, when you see Grogu, you are not to kill him." Because I mean, for what we know, at least canon-wise on Order 66, he said, "Kill them all, motherfucker, and let God sort them out." So Why would Anakin
literally
spare that the one that could have the most potential to be a Force badass?
Yeah, I mean it was indiscriminate. It was just fire on whoever you see move in this temple. Right. So to me, it's like a special detachment of either elite clone troopers that were going to get him, or somebody
that the Emperor specifically pegged for that. Yeah, you need to do this.
Said, you go and get this guy.
I can get behind that. Especially, we know how Palpatine is a fan of the long game, and we know that he loves to hide shit from his direct reports. So, I could see Palpatine grabbing this special force and be like, hey, I just sent Dickhead over there to go slaughter everyone, but I need you to get this little guy out of there first because we're going to do some experiments. And it makes sense. He definitely was thinking about clone experiments back then, because we've seen that in the Bad Batch with what they did with Nala Se and what's going on at Mount Tantus.
I mean, Bats in the chat, like, lobbying for Anakin. I mean, timeline-wise, it could work out. I mean, we didn't see...
It would be a mind fuck for people, because, there are memes about how Anakin kills kids. So now he's saving babies. But so that's where it gets a little squirrely, unless we get, which I highly doubt in this series, you get a little sidebar where, Palpatine shows up on a holo just as Anakin's ready to fucking start whacking. He's like, no, Lord Vader, you save this one for me. Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we would need. But yeah, I mean, I think at this point, it's clear that it's not a rescue.
That does make sense. Like, Nick's fucking killing it today. His potentially last Tuesday midday show. This guy is really fucking all-starring it. Hey, I like it. I mean, it makes complete sense. You're right. Like, why would they be so protective of this guy if it was someone coming to rescue him through the doors? not someone coming to fuck him up.
We see like a bomb, like not a bomb, but like one of those like door splitters going down the door.
Exactly. They're melting that motherfucker.
Jedi standing there, and they're like, and like for the longest time, we were like, they're going to rescue him, without realizing that he's already being guarded.
Yeah.
Like, there's literally 4 Jedi that we can see lightsabers ignited standing and flanking.
It's either that, or we just keep poking holes in the Star Wars that many people don't think about. I was thinking about one here, they're like, oh, Mandalorians, all their armor and gear are to, combat Jedi powers. I'm like, well, why couldn't a Jedi just crush their body beneath their armor?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's one thing, is like the Force in Star Wars is such a like, it can be used in ways that clearly they're just like avoiding, because we've seen Jedi literally like pick up people and choke them to death, or not Jedi, but Force users like pick up people and choke them to death. And I guess that like what stops Jedi from doing that is you're not really supposed to use the Force
I guess you're right.
To hurt somebody,
Sith
to injure somebody.
Sith would do it.
Yeah, I mean, Sith could do it for sure. Like they would literally just walk up to a Mandalorian and be like, "Oh, look at all that shiny armor," and Force choke him to death.
It would. I know. The Force can't bend Beskar. That's fine, but it can fucking bend meat and bones. So you could turn them into a raisin, and they would just fall out of their armor, and their armor would just like lay down, just like Obi-Wan did in A New Hope.
Yeah, and like you could also, like, if you had the ability to use Force lightning, like the fucking Emperor does, you just cook them
in their fucking armor.
Because that's what the whole
Sabine's weapon
device was that Sabine built.
It essentially was
just
a big
lightning gun.
Tesla coil that would fucking melt them in Beskar. It would keep the Beskar, but it would cook the fucking flesh. Oh well.
Yeah. So
again, that's just your reminder.
Lots of holes.
Don't get too upset about Star Wars and this and that, and bad guys always lose. It's just, if you really start thinking about it and bringing real life into it, there's a lot of fucking weird shit. Okay. I think we got a few more to get through here. Sabine's mom will show up. I would like to see that, if we're getting into Mandalorian culture and we're going to Mandalore and Bo-Katan, she was with Bo-Katan. She's a night owl. Mm-hmm. It'd be a nice touch, nice through line. The Rebels. Mandos will ultimately unite under Din and Bo to rise against Gideon and the Remnant.
I think that's a good... See, like Gideon and I think that's a good guess, because that is the most straightforward path towards the end of this season. Is like, I mean, it's essentially the MCU thing, where it's like we have the immediate enemy in front of us, which in each of the MCU movies was somebody different. But then once you deal with that immediate enemy in Gideon, then the big bad shows up, and that's Thrawn. Yeah. And then that brings in the perfect segue into the Ahsoka series. So maybe that's how they do it, is they literally pull an MCU and be like, yeah, Gideon is dead and handled now, but now we have a huge like galaxy-wide threat. This is like, we're not dealing with like planetary threats anymore. We're dealing with a threat to the entire
galaxy
system.
Yeah, I do believe Giancarlo has, hell, he's the first one that revealed that this show is even going to have 4 seasons. So I don't know if Gideon dies in season 3, but I do think there's going to be an actual battle. There really hasn't been a true battle between Gideon and his ideology versus Din and his kind's ideology. There's been little skirmishes here and there, but there hasn't been a true kind of come to tar moment between these two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, Nick teased the next one, Thrawn Stinger for Ahsoka series tease. Kind of like we got with Book of Boba Fett. I think we talked about this last week. It just makes sense. They've done a stinger now in Book of Mando season 2 and Book of Boba Fett. It seems to kind of be the thing. They did a stinger in Andor, so they really are embracing the MCU narrative delivery style at this point, and it just makes sense. Ahsoka being next, Thrawn's already been thrown out there. Let's get the tease, which I still don't think is you see his face or anything. But maybe you get to see the white boots, or you know the camera pans up and stops right before it hits the head, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's 4. I think that's almost a guarantee. I would say I would put it that way. Right. That's almost a guarantee.
Well, there you go. That was what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Take it to the bank predictions from the SWTS. Hopefully you kept the list. If not, no one's really going to care. But you know, I'll remember this type of shit, and if these things come true, I'll be sitting here cheerleading for Nick and myself as if
when we're
real
right.
life. Yeah, well, we never admit when we're wrong. But we definitely celebrate and go over the top when we're right. Okay, let's go ahead and kick into our next little Mandalorian topic, and this one moves beyond season 3 into season 4, because, like I said, John's been out there and he's been opening up his mind to Star Wars fans. So he kind of, they asked him about, hey man, do you kind of know where all this shit's going? We know season 4 is written. We learned about that last week. So is that it? Is season 4 it? And he's pretty much like, nah, I don't even really have a true end game in mind for Mando yet. So here's what he said. He said, no, I don't. I think the beauty of this is that it's a middle chapter of a larger story. So he could be saying there's going to be 8 seasons of The Mandalorian, or he could be saying there's going to be 8 shows within the Mando-verse, or 8 seasons of shows within the Mando-verse. Who knows, but just know that season 4 of Mando is far from the end of these stories. He went on to say, and though we'll have resolution over time with these characters, I think that how these characters fit into the larger scope and scale, but it's not like there's a finale that we're building to that I have in mind. Quite the contrary. I love for these stories to go on and on. So do we. And so these characters potentially could be with us for a while. And I really love telling stories in their voice, and I love the way the adventures unfold, and I'm looking forward to doing much more. So Nick, I'll kind of posit this to you and see what you think. Do you look at that statement as fucking A, that's awesome? I love that things are open-ended and it's malleable, and these stories are going to keep going as long as we're here to receive them? Or do you look at that as like, oh shit, this show could end up like Lost, where it's fantastic, but because they did not have an end game in mind, it fizzles out and ultimately the finale is forgettable?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this a long time ago. I talked about this, I think, even going into season 2. the title of The Mandalorian, as we know it right now, applies to Din. He is the Mandalorian.
Oh, I know
He's
where
known
you're
that throughout the
going. I
galaxy.
know where he's going.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, if you want this show to just be like he mentioned, kind of open-ended, there is no end in mind, then what you should do with it is make the title of The Mandalorian, like the title of the show, more all-encompassing. Because Mandalorians have been main characters in Star Wars stories and in the Star Wars universe for huge amounts of time. I mean, thousands and thousands of years, going back in memoriam until, the time when Mandalorians first made their entrance into the galaxy. They've always been major players. If you want this show to persist into time immemorial, like in memoriam, as long as you want to tell it, then you have to make the title itself be more all-encompassing than just, we are following Din, who was known as the Mandalorian for the first year of his time with us because he wouldn't take his helmet off and he wouldn't tell anybody his real name. I feel like if that's the road that you want to take, then you start to make it, I don't want to call it like an anthology series, but you almost have to make it a show about Mandalorians in general, or Mandalorians and their journey through rebuilding their culture and rebuilding their society, more than just, it's a show about a guy who's called Mando. Because I think the problem is that he's human and he ages. So we're looking at right now, we're 7 years post. At this point we're 9
probably
to
close
10.
to 10. Yeah. Now that we know
we're
that
9
it's
to 10
2 years beyond Book of Boba.
Yeah,
that is.
like post.
Jedi.
Post ROTJ. So we still have 20 plus years until we get to the sequel timeline.
Oh, easy, yeah.
And if they choose to continue to tell stories about this that stretch into that timeline, you're getting into an area. I mean, Din's what, probably 30? Like you would say, early 30s?
I would say his mid 30s, sure.
Yeah, so like that would put him 55.
Actually, no, probably
old.
in his 40s, like Boba, because I would say him and Boba are close to the same age.
Yeah,
Din looked about 10 in those flashbacks.
Yeah, but he was he was around 10 years, so he's in his 40s.
Yeah.
If you add 20 more years onto his time, onto his story, he's in his 60s, mid 60s by the time we get to the sequel trilogy. And if they do truly plan to tell stories that long, then like you're getting into an area where like the character has aged to a point to where
Geezer Din.
Yeah, it's like, what can you do with him? And then it's also, you also have to like keep in mind, like, what are you going to do with Grogu as well? Because Grogu doesn't age at the same
He becomes
time.
the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I mean, but maybe that's the play, is like I was saying, is like have somebody else take up that moniker, or like have the title of the show be a little bit more open-ended and not just like Din is the Mandalorian. I would like that to happen, because I think that there's so much interesting stuff to follow with Mandalorian culture and society and stuff like that, that like limiting yourself to one character that may or may not be involved in the rebuilding of Mandalorian culture could get, it could diverge from what you expect the show to be about.
And that's the other thing, like who knows if he's specifically talking about Mando or if he's talking about the Mando-verse. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
is he saying
True.
Mando season 4 is halfway of just the Mandalorian, or is it halfway of the stories he's telling through Ahsoka, Book of Boba, Skeleton Crew, and the Mandalorian? You don't know. And Trevor asks, the title is not, I don't believe the show is called The Mandalorians. It's The Mandalorian. Yeah, no, because
Mandalorian is not plural in itself.
Yeah.
Like it is Mandalorians. Mandalorians is
with
the
an S.
plural of. Yeah. So, yeah,
there you go, Nick. They'll just slap an S on the end and be like The Mandalorians.
Dude, honestly, if they did a title, like if they did like a stinger title change at the end of season 4, where it's just like you have like a slow dissolve of the title and then it adds an S at the end, I would be totally fine with that. especially if that's the direction that they want to take the show.
I mean, Nick, you understand, people, if you're new here, Nick has been pitching this since season 1. He's like, listen, the title is ominous enough, The Mandalorian, that by season 3, Din could be dead, and we're just following Bo-Katan, another Mandalorian. Yeah, right. And so, he's coming back full circle here. I don't know. I mean, listen.
I do think that would be an interesting way to handle it, but I don't know what their plans are.
I'm a Star.
It seems like they don't have plans.
That's why I asked it that way, because I think that there's some people that probably look at that and they go, "Oh, I don't know. I don't necessarily love the idea that John doesn't have an end for this era and these characters, and he is just going to kind of go year to year to year to year." I guess me personally, I am a glutton for Star Wars anything, so. Have at it. If you want to make The Mandalorian season 30, I'll be watching it on Wednesday mornings before my job. But I do understand those that have narrative concerns without a true end game in mind for the characters. Because they do more or less need resolution. Because these characters are being positioned in a way that you're like, well, how the fuck did you guys allow the First Order on your watch to become the power they became? You had a fucking Grogu. You technically may have had Mandalorian society back together as the Spartans of the Star Wars galaxy, and you still let these fuckers build up in deep space and come in one fell swoop essentially blow up the New Republic. There needs to be resolution that way, at least in my head. I just don't know how heroes sit idly by while all this stuff happens. I know that's the big beef with Luke Skywalker in the sequels. But I understood his self-exile because both of his masters did the same fucking thing. When Obi-Wan and Yoda realized that they failed, what did they do? They didn't monitor the galaxy and figure out how they could fight back. They fucking went into hiding and relied on the next generation to fix their problems. So that's exactly what Luke did. He did exactly what his masters told him. I wasn't a huge fan of angry Luke, sad Luke, but it really wasn't that big of a stretch for the character. Anyways, I don't want to go down that fucking rabbit hole. So I like this. Either way, the fact that Favreau's still geeked up and committed to doing this until Disney tells him to go fuck himself, I'm in. I'm down.
I mean, I think at this point too, like Favreau has a legitimate angle to be like, hey, include me in the movie verse when I want to be there. Yeah. Because that's what he's essentially been building up to this whole time. Like, he's been building up to this massive MCU style, like in-game, like Infinity War in-game, like clash of heroes and villains. We just haven't had the villain introduced yet. So, we'll see.
Bat's asking, will we ever see live action Battle of Jakku? Not in the Mando-verse, because it already happened. I believe the battle the Battle of Jakku took place like 3 or 4 years after the Battle of Endor.
It was pretty soon after the Battle of Endor. So but I mean soon in a galactic sense, not like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, everyone's got
that was essentially like the Battle of Jakku was the final battle that really stamped out the Empire. Right. And that's when the Empire became the Remnant Empire. After that, their numbers were so small and their forces were so scattered that they couldn't maintain.
Doesn't Battlefront 2 loosely deal with that, right?
Yeah, Battlefront 2 does address the Battle of Jakku because it was like it. I think it like you
wasn't Iden's dad like wasn't Iden's dad like one of the admirals that was there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, check that out, Bat. Operation Cinder stuff. That the Jakku was, as Nick said, kind of the tail end of the Empire trying to claw its way back after losing their leaders, the Sith, and the Death Star too. Good stuff. Yes. All right, I love it. This is why I try to tell my students, like when you're teaching online, if the students actually interact and comment and stuff, you never know where the discussion will go and what type of clarity will be achieved. Sure. We got Dr. Awesome in here. I wonder if games like the upcoming Bounty Hunter game will fill any gaps in the timeline.
I mean,
if that's a real game, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen leaks of that. We don't know if that's real or if that's like something that was like pre-dev work or pre-alpha work that got shit on and canceled. I mean, we do know that the games themselves that do tell stories are considered canon.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Jedi First Order. Or,
that'd be nice.
Fallen Order.
I'm assuming Dr. Awesome is talking about the Ubisoft
Mando-verse.
the Ubisoft Massive project. Which details are quite light. I don't know if it's a bounty hunter or Jedi or just a regular person, but yeah, sure.
I will say that generally when there is story told in video games, it's not going to be super connective tissue.
Correct.
Because like multimedia does not look at video games as a mass way of like telling story and connective tissue because not enough people play them. So like, if there is key plot details that they're trying to get across in terms of like the period of time between the Mando-verse and the sequel trilogy, if it's key and it's important, more than likely it's going to be in TV show or movie form. And then video games will get ancillary storylines.
Or they'll just put it in the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, or something like that. But I'm sure there will be stories that bridge gaps, like we were talking about with the Battlefront 2 campaign that covered the Battle of Jakku, Operation Cinder, and all that stuff. But all of that was told in that campaign is not connective tissue or necessary for you to understand how we got from.
It gives you nice moments, though, like in season 2 when Mayfeld just out of nowhere drops Operation Cinder. Like that's the stuff I live for. So. Yeah, I mean, in the end, just give Nick and I a fucking game studio, give us some cash, and we will make Hogwarts Legacy Star Wars version. That's all we need. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, that's all any Star Wars fan needs is that exact fucking game, but Star Wars. That game is perfect for anyone that wants to feel what it was like to live in the Hogwarts universe. Nick he could speak even better to it because he's a Potter fanboy. But I would imagine if you were a fanboy, this game is giving you everything you've ever wanted in a Potterverse style video game, correct?
I mean, definitely. I mean, so much so that like Taylor has picked up and played a video game for the first time, like, you know, in her life. Like she's like, I don't know if you've seen like TikTok videos or anything like that of like, you know, boyfriends showing their girlfriends how to like use a controller for the first time and like they like not being able to figure out how to position your camera when you're walking. Like that's what, you know, Taylor is like learning how to do all of that.
It's like me teaching Charlie, like, no, the left stick moves camera, right? Or what is it? Left stick moves person, right moves camera.
Moves you. Yeah. So like, I mean, that game really did achieve like that goal.
Avocados.
Oh, yeah? You're talking about avocados? What about?
Because tonight's taco night and we gotta get...
Oh, Taco Tuesday. I bet you're happy. Reminder, we got leftover rice and beans to use, so we don't waste food here. It's the biggest fucking sin on the planet. Is anyone else like an insane food Nazi like me?
Yeah, we typically don't, like, we'll eat all of our leftovers and we don't...
Food waste to me is one of the biggest human sins you can commit. Especially if you have the means to eat regularly. You know what I mean? Like I don't know why. I think it's some of it's trauma and being forced to sit at the fucking table as a little kid for hours because I didn't want to eat something shitty. But others just like, I mean, you know what the world's like outside of your bubble, or I hope people do. There's a lot of motherfuckers that can't eat, and it kills me when I'm dumping like $50 dinners into a fucking trash can. It just bothers me unlike anything else. Littering's like a close second on my list of things that I want to stab humans over, but wasting food is number one. Can't stand it. Like I'm getting angry just thinking that we may waste some rice right now, but I'll get over it. All right, so let's move on. But you know what I mean, man? This is just someone out there, Warner Brothers, get the fucking license. Use the same team. Change. I don't even give a shit. Use all the same voices. Just change the skin in the world, and I'll be happy. Like, come on.
Hey, I hope so.
Anytime I'm playing Harry Potter, and even last night when I Hogwarts. It's not Harry Potter. And I'm sitting there and I'm combing fucking beasts. I'm just going, this could be a blurg. I could be on Arvala 7 and fucking Queel's farm, hanging out, feeding my blurg. And I would be the happiest motherfucker on the planet. That's all we want. That's all we want. We don't need new gimmicks. We don't need flashy shit. We don't need combat systems that resemble medieval knights. We just want a game to where we can feel like we are in Star Wars and we're looking at stuff we've always dreamed that we could look at if we were in the Star Wars universe while watching it. Why is it that hard? They've never done it. I mean, the closest they got is KOTOR. But even then didn't have like all the minutia and nuance that this Hogwarts has. I mean, Christ. So I mean, give us the fucking money. We'll get it done.
Yeah, we'll hire the people. We'll run we'll do all of the work for you.
Damn straight. All right, dude. It's time to move into the fan segment. We do it every week. One of the only Star Wars podcasts out there to dedicate a segment to their fans, at least the tens of them that show up on Tuesdays. So the way to get involved, we have two prongs to the fan segment. We got the question of the week, which the prompt drops on Instagram at Star Wars Time Show on Tuesdays. It'll be in our stories. It'll be on the post grid, maybe. You never know. Sometimes I forget. All you got to do is hopefully find it. That means you got to keep liking our content so the algo knows you dig us, and respond. And we'll grab some comments and we will read them. And then the next, we'll tease you. It's about Star Wars art. But for now, let's get into the question of the week. We're also we got to announce the winner of our giveaway to see if that's even a real giveaway, because the guy that set it up I haven't heard from him in 2 weeks, but we'll see. We picked the winner, so we'll see where it goes. But
we got a winner.
That's coming up. That's coming
up
for the second part of the fan segment. So let me go ahead and get our squeens. Oh my goodness, our squeens.
Get those squeens
Let's
ready.
Get the squeens switched around. For the question of the week. This week's question, obviously sticking with the theme, we're in Bad Batch, so I just asked the fans out there, what was your favorite or least favorite part from Bad Batch S2E10, the mining one? And it doesn't look like we had many responses at all, which I kind of anticipated.
Two total responses on the post itself, and then you got the one in there from
the story post here from Fallen Jedi, aka Lord of Thane. We never miss. I guess it's it's a quote from Wrecker, I believe, when they are on the bridge. So
on the bridge, yeah.
All right,
on the bridge.
And then
closing
Nick,
it. And then the two comments. First one up is from @Lima4Photos on Instagram. We always love Lima. He says, "I love that this episode gave a concrete example of what was being said in Nemec's manifesto. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks, it leaks. Authority is brittle."
I love this guy.
It doesn't matter if the Empire or within a small gang. In this case, it didn't even matter that such tyranny was over just a bunch of scared, hungry kids that were just desperate to survive. That's actually a fantastic tie back to Nemec's.
Yeah, no, Lima is one of the most well thought out Star Wars Time Show commenters out there. This guy he's one of our biggest cheerleaders. I mean, obviously he's up there with our boy Bat. Bat's on that list. Nova's on that list. Sir Dork. This new guy. Yeah. I mean, Barney's
Dr. Awesome.
Barney's become a big cheerleader. I'm talking on like Instagram, just regurgitating our content. But this one dude, I don't even know if he listens live, but this Michael Mansell, like if we had a budget, I would pay him for marketing at this point. I mean, this dude, he's doing what I've been asking fans to do since the dawn of time. Just if you see our content pop up, restory it, drop a little, sticker on it, something like that. That's it. Michael Mansell, you're a fan of the week, right behind Lima4Photos.
Look at that. But good stuff from Lima. And then our final comment from Bat at 2797_studios on Instagram says, as fluff-filled as this episode may have been, there were a few redeeming moments. Tech and Omega continuing to bond, Tech reminding Omega to look for the good in people, always been a recurring theme in Star Wars. We also got the return of Gonky. We know he's been out there, but Homie got some screen time finally and saved the Marauder for the batch. So there was a little bit of meat on the bones of this
little
episode.
is the key word.
I'm glad that, I'm glad that you found the meat that was tucked behind the fat in there.
I would argue that Bad or 2797 should have capitalized little versus was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To really emphasize the little on that. Little. Hey, I'm having fun. Like I said, you're never going to get me all like angry at the Bad Batch. Like I'm not going to say, oh, this shit sucks, I'm done. But man, last week was basic. Okay, so that's it for question of the week. And as Bat said, I'm going to be torn next week. No, it's pretty clear I'm shifting to Mandalorian questions for the remainder of the season. I might spice things up if there was like a juicy nugget in a Bad Batch, but Nick, I think I'm shifting to what was your favorite or least favorite part from The Mandalorian? Fill in the episode number. So I think we'll get a little more reaction from Mando talk than Bad Batch, sadly.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so now we transition back to the final prong of the fan segment, and that is our top 5 Star Wars fan artist features of the week. So
do we want to do our winner before we get into top 5?
You're right. Yeah. So 2 weeks ago we launched a giveaway. It was for the SH Figure Arts Book of Boba Fett figure. Good looking figure. I got the post pulled up now. So today I finally ran it through this free tool. Fuck it, it worked. It did something. It picked somebody. It's good enough. It's called iWask. It was pretty cool. I just put the post link in it. It's like, okay, you had 250 comments, blah, 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 and it spit out the winner. So here we go. Are we ready? I'm going to do a slow scroll up. Congratulations. Here are the winner. It is at Calro_Dbro. Calro Dbro, congratulations. You may have won a figure. I say may because I got to follow up with Nin Nin Game to see if we got scammed or not, but hopefully we didn't.
Yeah, I think they'll be there. Once you send the name and get the contact information from him, then we should be good to go.
So Calro Dbro, I'm assuming you're someone that doesn't listen to the show, which is okay. That wasn't a requirement to win. But I'll be reaching out through Instagram here this week to hopefully finalize that. So thanks to those that played. Fingers crossed that this is real and we didn't get duped. But in the end, Calro_Dbro is our winner. That's just how it is, my friends. Our diehards never seem to come out on top in our once a year giveaways that we've been doing the past 2 years. I should just get to the point. I should just get to the point where I give away all these fucking boxes of Black Series. Some have. I think Bodie Rook has been in his box unopened for a year and a half now, 2 years. Is that a sign, Nick?
Maybe.
Is that a sign that
maybe
just to get rid of
those or give them away?
All right. So here we go into the top 5. The way this works, every week we need you when you are sharing your Star Wars content of any kind. If you think it's artistic, we may too. So make sure to use ad tag at Star Wars Time Show and then use hashtag Star Wars Time Show so we can see your shots. Every morning I will look through the tags. This is when it all starts coming out because of the air I've been inhaling throughout this stupid show. But like I said, I'll be looking through the tags, the hashtags. I'll share some of my favorite shots every day, usually at least 3, sometimes 8, sometimes 12. You never know. And then on Monday, Nick sits down, gets himself a little pipe, maybe some whiskey, sits out there in the warm Austin air, and he chooses his 5 favorite out of the most recent features on our page. And that is who we are about to honor right now.
That's right. So, first up for this week's top 5 is a very recent feature. I believe you featured this yesterday.
Yeah, this is either this morning or yesterday. So good. Yeah.
Yeah. This is from @K_Living and Art on Instagram. It's the first time feature here. And this is a literal pencil hand drawn
motherfucking colored pencils, dude.
Of our formerly our good friend Cody, and I mean it's just incredible detail. You can see, the way that the picture is posted on Instagram is that you can literally see the notebook that it was drawn on. You can see the pencils that he used, and it is such a detailed rendering by hand of Cody that it's actually hard to believe that he did this all with colored pencils and his own fingers
man,
or their own fingers. I mean, it's amazing.
These real ass painters, dude. I mean, where is our real ass painter? Her. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Her own work.
Sorry about
Kirsten,
that. Sorry about that, Kay.
Kirsten from Germany.
Where the hell is our real ass painter? Where the hell are the dudes? Where's Super Scoundrel and Justin? I thought they'd be in here today, popping off about their premiere. Maybe they're playing with their other podcast friends. They've left us for Punch It with Chewy Press or It's My Party. I see everything.
They're on the way
people.
to the red carpet.
I see everything, motherfuckers. You guys, I'm a petty ass little cunt. I see what you people do. I see the other podcasts you all rep. Where you at? Let's go. It's Star Wars time. There's always time. Let's do it. But yeah, no, I mean, shit, man, that shit's fucking kick ass. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you get the weathering in there? And how do you even form a human shape using your fingers? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, and then if you look at Kirsten's work on her Instagram, again, K_living, LIVINGANDART, living and art. Very Star Wars heavy in terms of what she draws, and it's all of it is just next level fantastic. And guess what? For the Cara Dune fans out there, Cara Dune was her second most recent or third most recent post, and it's a very good drawing of Cara. I mean, you can see tons of famous Star Wars characters on here. I mean, all of the bucket heads that you know and love. We got Bo, we got Boba, we got Django, we got Din.
Holy shit!
We got them all.
Check this out.
And I mean, like even going to like a close up of Grievous's eye, if you scroll down a bit, which is just wildly impressive. So please, if you enjoy, hand drawn art,
yeah, I mean,
stuff
she's
like,
like damn near photorealistic portraits, is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
If you're not on the live stream, I mean, holy shit, I'm not following. I'm gonna follow back right now. Let me fix that. I think some people think that I purposely want to keep like a low war following count. That's not the case at all. Like, listen, this thing eats up enough of my life that I'm not going through and like, oh, they followed me, let me follow back. So that ain't our
that's not
our mantra.
Yeah. So,
look at Bat. It's K. Me is fun. You guys know I'm just fucking busting balls. Come on, get over it.
At K_living and art. Absolutely beautiful stuff.
You're never going to get a more open and honest dickhead on the internet than me. I can promise you that. That's why we're different, all right? We are authentic, okay? There's no puppy dogs and ice cream over here, and we're not just full-on clickbait negative either. That's why we're different. This shit's real. All right. Next
up, we have at BrickPanda82. It's been a while since we had a
man,
Brick Panda
right? Weren't we
here.
just talking? I think I was just talking. I was like, man, I hopefully Brick Panda gets into another Star Wars swing, and sure as shit, here he is.
Yeah, coming out with a big gun. So we have a Lego trooper here. Is this a tank trooper?
Shore trooper.
Is it shore trooper?
Yep.
Okay, yes. I was like, helmet. It looks similar, but yes, you are right. We are on Scarif in this picture. In fact, because you could see in the background
it's burning.
The Scarif spire, with which, yes, that is one, burning, and two, that's what they used to transmit the Death Star plans across to the 10T4. But this shore trooper here is doing the cool guy thing and walking away from an explosion, gun raised high, and just slightly looking back towards it. Just because, you know what, sometimes when you look back at an explosion, it's still cool. So, I mean, just awesome setup and beautiful work with the background put together here by @BrickPanda82.
There you go. Dr. Awesome saying a huge inspiration for us Lego guys. I agree. I mean, I've said it before. Brick Panda to me is the top, especially for if you're into almost like Lego portrait photography or to me, Brick Panda, their style is very similar to animated Lego properties. You know, like Lego Star Wars. That's literally what it looks like. But they are photos of Lego bricks. They're just so damn good at the post-processing and Photoshop that it just all looks natural, in-world, movie cell, animation cell level quality. I'm surprised I mean, it's a great shot, but I personally was a bigger fan of his Luke. I don't know if you saw that one where Luke was forming his green lightsaber.
Oh man, maybe I missed that one. But
that's the beauty of the top 5. I mean, I lay him down there, and then Nick picks his favorite. But if we jump out here to Brick Panda, that Luke one right there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's the deleted scene from Return of the Jedi where he's in the cave with R2, forming the saber. It's fucking tits, just tits. Excellent.
Yeah, incredible stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean,
anyway.
Yeah. Brick Panda, Tong Wars is another Lego stud.
Yeah.
Milo studs.
I don't know where Ray went, the 0307.
Yeah, that's right.
Like the one that was all numbers.
Yeah.
Because they were also
0000379 REI. I'll never forget that. You're right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, incredible work at Brick Panda 82 on this one. Next up is at Paul Brown 12.
You're a Paul Brown super fan.
I was gonna say, I know that we had a Paul Brown not too long ago. I don't think it was last. It was
2 weeks ago with the Sith battle droid. I remember. Yes,
very true. But this shot that he put together here of Maul is just incredible. So what we see is Maul fully cloaked and hooded in a black robe. His sabers have been separated and they're both ignited. And there's this really great lightning effect that's running up the blade of the saber, and I mean, like the background itself, in the middle of like this dead, dense forest, and kind of sitting on this like raised mound of rock that is covered in snow. Just incredible detailing in this shot here from Paul Brown 12.
Yeah,
another level.
I'm digging. You know, Paul. He's kind of. I don't know if he's in his dark period or what, but a lot of the tones to his shots recently have been nice and dark, where the light really accents the subject here. I like the chaos blade effect on the lightsabers, and you know, Maul just kind of chilling, looking evil. I like, you know, the practicality of the set with the sticks, getting some of the atmosphere peeling through the sticks. Yeah, I mean it's good stuff. Paul Brown definitely is becoming a regular up here.
Yeah, 100%. So good stuff at Paul Brown 12 on Instagram. Next up,
Bat's saying there was a new Black Series reveal today, and it's just more carbonized shit. It's just, I'm telling you, everyone. It takes a while. It took me close to 2 years, but I think I'm fully free of Black Series, and it's better. Just get away. There's zero innovation in that line. It's just repaint after repaint, same figure after same figure. Save your money, quit buying the armies, and just start, upgrading the hot toys or customs. Enough said.
There you go. Next up. At mad.like.
Before we get into this one, Nick, do you feel like Mad Like a Clone is almost channeling someone that used to be a regular in this segment, Papa Palpatine? Do you feel that style a bit?
A bit. I mean, it is like they
like the detail, the dios and environments and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it is very similar to what we used to see from Palpatine. I do feel like that, like Palpatine. I mean, I really can't remember because it's been so long.
I mean, he was one of the best, and I don't really even see his stuff anymore because obviously the way algorithms work, it's not like we unfollowed him when he canceled us because of Gina Carano or whatever, but. I don't really even see his work anymore. I'm assuming he's still going, but I just, from what I remember, this Mad Like a Clone is channeling that essence a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a similar style of like gritty photography,
very detailed and well laid out scenes. Really, is what we're talking about.
Exactly, and I mean that's what you see here, and what we see is the second sister making her way through some sort of like like sand town. You can see weathered walls kind of creating a walkway. The walkway is just filled with different Imperial soldiers. You can also see a Jawa off there to the side. And it seems like this is like a sweep almost, like kind of what the Inquisitors did on Tatooine when they were there looking for, Obi-Wan Kenobi, or looking for a Force user, a Jedi, doing like shutting down a town and doing a full sweep of wherever they are. And it seems like that's what's happening here in this image. And it's just a fantastically detailed image by Mad Like a Clone. I don't know any other way to put it.
It's
just
very well staged is what I'll say. And to me, that's probably the hardest thing about toy photography is your staging. What dye are you going to use? Are you going to use a dye? Are you going to use digital? Are you going to use a mix of practical and digital? And then your little subjects, the biggest dickheads on the planet. Are they going to stand the way you envision them to stand? How many times are they going to fall down and cause everyone to domino? How many times are you going to want to stab your own eyes out while you do this hobby? You never know. That's the joys of toy photography.
That is true. So, amazing work there by @Mad
look
Like
who
a
just
Clone.
popped up. Young Liam, who is probably almost done with college at this point in time. This little,
I was say he's no longer young Liam. He's old Liam now.
He's definitely college Liam. But I mean, this kid, he's one of our early supporters and followers, and he probably shouldn't have been listening to us when he started. I think he was like 16 or 17, something like that.
The language that we were using at that time.
I'll never forget the one time Savvy Art shared like the top 5, and she had to put like 3 stories before it got to us. Like, I'm warning you.
There's bad language.
This content's a bit explicit, but they said nice things about my art.
So it's good to see young Liam back.
It's always
so welcome
nice.
back to the stream, young Liam. It's good to see. Last up in the top 5 this week is @Morpheus Visions, and this is a fantastic little Star Wars in the real world type of shot.
Arcade, baby.
Yes, like in an arcade with full black light posters all around the background. A real
arcade, like we have to qualify for new generations, Nick, because their idea of arcades now are claw machines and ticket games. I'm talking
very true.
Stand-up cabinets, pinball tables, change machines. That's a real arcade.
Yeah, like a real ass arcade.
Think this week's episode of The Last of Us. That type of arcade.
Yeah. So good stuff there. And this is from Morpheus Visions. What we see is Daddy Din with his helmet off, nonetheless. Helmet off Din, standing over little Grogu as
you see where his helmet's off. You see why his helmet's off, though, right?
That's what I was going to say. Not only is he sitting on a stool, but he is sitting on top of Daddy Din's helmet that is also on the stool, leaning over and playing Dragon's Lair. The arcade cabinet for Dragon's Lair. And I mean, this shot in itself is just mind-blowing because of the amount of setup and like the staging and
real
everything
too.
That
like
Morpheus Vision.
Those are real little arcade things. Like I know they make miniature versions. I'm wondering if Morpheus just a bunch of those, or if he's 3D printing and printing out the decals and putting lights in. But shit. It really does.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to get too much into The Last of Us because I'm sure Nick hasn't seen it, but let's just say it's a nod to the DLC, like the prequel DLC,
yes, the DLC.
with Ellie and friend. But it's funny that we're looking at the shot now because we have Pedro that's who he is, right? Din Djarin in an arcade. It kind of lines up with this week. But yeah, man, I don't know where an idea like this comes from, but I love it. Like where do you sit down? Like, hey, I'm gonna grab my Hot Toys Din and fuck it, I'm just gonna build a whole mini arcade and shoot a scene with him and Grogu in it, like dad and son at the arcade on a Saturday afternoon. But I love it. I love the fucking imagination here, the creativity. It's fantastic.
It is really, really good stuff. Just incredible in terms of just the setup, the posing, everything. Very fun setup here from Morpheus Vision.
I need to find one of these. I know they exist. I think I even have one in town called like 16-bit, but I don't know if it actually has cabinets. I know in Tampa,
we have
there's like a fucking warehouse building you can go to. You're like, here's $10 and all day you just play for free. But I need to find one because my childhood was defined by going to mall arcades. Like that was the fucking thing to do on a Saturday. Mom, pick up the neighborhood kids, drop us off at Ross Park Mall in Pittsburgh, go to the arcade, fucking cash in $5-10, how much we could save. I got next. Put it right on the fucking cabinet. If someone's playing, I got next. Winner stays, loser pays.
That was, I mean, I did that a lot too. We have like a site. It's called Cidercade over here in Austin, where it's essentially it's a full scale
like
arcade, but there's a cider bar.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a cider bar.
Now, Nick, is it? Have they made them like scan card games, or are they just all free to play by default? Do you know? They're all free to play because it's like you said, I think it's like a $10 cover, and then you just go in and you play until you want to leave. So. Yeah, that's exactly what I would love to do. I mean, I love arcades. I mean, to this day, I'd say at least once a month, I'm taking my kid to either Dave & Buster's Scene 75, or for the first time since I was a tot, I realized there's a Chuck E. Cheese like a mile away from us. So we checked out Chuck E. Cheese on Saturday, and holy shit, that's a place these days. But no, even Chuck E. Cheese, they had a few traditional cabinets, but it's all the fucking ticket game stuff.
Yeah. So, good stuff though. That's the end of the top 5, and that's the end of the show. Woo! Guess what? Next show will be season 3, episode 1 of Mandalorian.
I know.
So,
and sadly, young Nick will not be here to break it down, but life comes at you fast. He's got to figure out his new schedule. So I guess moving forward, here's what we're looking at. Next week, we're still going to have the usual Tuesday, 2:30 p. East YouTube live stream. Okay. I'm probably going to reach out to one of the co-hosts that have worked the show with me before. So either Jason, Trevor, or Jared to see if anyone's available. If not, I'll probably have to sadly do it myself. It just seems that in our Star Wars life, Nick and I, we always have these little conundrums where one of us isn't available for a major moment happening in Star Wars. But like I said, I'll be here next week, hopefully with a special guest to break down, like Nick said, S2E10 of The Mandalorian and S2E11 of Bad Batch. But next week is more than likely going to be our last Tuesday afternoon show. Hopefully by the end of next week, Nick will have a better idea where we're at. But like I said, more than likely Tuesday evenings or Friday earlier in the day type of setup. Things, they are a-changing here at the SWTS, but that's just kind of how we roll. We have metamorphosized multiple times. Started as a subcast of the Entertainment Buddha Network. Then we became our own deal, just doing multiple shows a week, audio only. During the pandemic is when we started the shift to Tuesday live streaming. So it's happened before. It's just been a while. But we ain't leaving. So make sure to follow us, because there's always time for Star Wars time. You know what I mean? That's why we got StarWarsTime.net out there on the internet. Just paid the bills. It's up and running. Some days it works, some days it doesn't. I'm just glad I'm at the point where I don't really give a shit anymore if it works or not, because I used to have issues with websites that I would create, and then I'd also have to maintain and troubleshoot. It sucked. But in all seriousness, StarWarsTime.net, best place to go if you're new here and you want to find some other platforms to follow us on, such as Instagram, the dreaded Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest. Shit, I might as well remove that. I don't think anything's going on Pinterest. But more importantly, the good stuff, the show, StarWarsTime.net. That's where you can get all the podcast links. That's where we need you. Even if you're a live streamer only, we want you to subscribe to a platform. Preferably iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, like the big ones, the ones where you can rate and review, because that type of stuff helps us immensely. Obviously, if you're a live streamer only, make sure you're subbed to the YouTube channel, which you can also do through StarWarsTime.net. And if you're here listening now, do the right thing. Like this stream. Even better, leave a comment. Even more better, share a clip with your friends and family. That's how this thing grows. The algo fucking hates us. It'll never come around unless you meatbags tell it so. And we're still fucking waiting. It's been many years at this point in time. What else can we possibly do? Okay? It's now on you. Or it's on us to realize that we suck and no one cares and we should just read the room and quit. But I don't see myself doing that anytime soon, at least till someone shoots me in the face. All right, my friends, we all know it. Make sure someone new learns it. And that there's always time for Star Wars time. And that if you listen to the Star Wars Time Show, the Force will be with you, and you in the back. Always.